You're listening to Power Athlete Radio, a podcast dedicated to empowering your performance every damn day. Join former NFL pro and Power Athlete founder John Welborn as he dissects the greatest minds in strength, conditioning, and more. So whether your goal is to be the hammer, destroy mediocrity, or simply move the dirt, you've come to the right place. Now with the warm-up done, let the gains begin.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Power Athlete Radio. I'm John Welborn, and today we are joined by David Weck. He's the inventor of BOSU Balance Trainer and the new Weck method, BOSU Elite, the RMT Club, and other products. He is an inventor, athlete, avid rollerblader, and probably one of the more interesting people we've had in Power Athlete Radio, and that is saying a lot. Buckle up. Put your seatbelts on, put your seats in the full upright position, and prepare for David Weck. So, dude, thanks. It's great to have you in the studio after we did our online one.
Yeah, I know. What an opportunity, right?
Yeah, well, we did the one via Zoom, and I was like, man, there's so much that we needed to explore, and it would be such a more rich experience if we did it in person. And you're like, I'm coming to Austin, so let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. Perfectly. And you're a big man, and I appreciate it.
Well, I don't think of myself as a big dude, and it's not until I see pictures that I'm like, oh, shit, I am bigger than most people.
Yeah, especially the people in the picture next to you.
Yeah. Well, what's good is I find if you want to feel small, just get bigger friends. So that's why I've been hanging out with big dudes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you were in town teaching your seminar.
Yes.
Give me the breakdown of the seminar. I know it was 3 days, but is it taking you through all the methods? I mean, really, what do the attendees walk away with?
Yeah, so basically Friday was our rotational movement training specialist course. That's our foundation where you learn the coiling core training, the bilateral torsion training, and then that summation of that is the rotational movement training.
Okay.
So it's a one-day course. We are doing in 1 day what we couldn't even do in 3 days back several years ago. So it's a relentless pursuit of better. How do we teach this better? How do we, onboard the skill set to the coaches and the trainers and the athletes faster and faster and faster?
So was it 3 separate seminars?
2 separate seminars.
Okay.
So the RMTS, Rotational Movement Training Specialist, was Friday.
Okay.
And then we had our Weck Method qualification on Saturday, Sunday.
Gotcha.
And so there we go more in depth. We're, applying it to weights, applying it to, each and any modality. And plus now we incorporate the BOSU Elite and the RMT Club. So in the RMTS one, the Friday, it's just a rope, elastic band, and a device called the propels speed trainers.
Those are the little pill shakers?
The canisters that have that weight inside.
We call those rattlers because they sound like pill. So
right.
In the NFL,
maracas.
In the NFL, when they would come by with like a little box of pills, they would shake them and they sound like rattlers. And when you started shaking them, it reminded me of the NFL and them handing us pills.
Right, and then no more pain.
Yeah, and no more intelligent thought too. You got to put that on there. All right, so you go through and these individuals are certified in your method?
Yes, so the RMTS, what we want to do is we want to give you your own personal practice. So it's really about creating the feeling, and our philosophy is that the tool is the teacher. So all we are is a guide to give you the principles to develop your own practice. And we want you to get you into the positions where you will feel what it is we're talking about, which is essentially eliminating compensatory movement from the system. You're able to funnel force fluidly through the fascia to the floor, deliver it and receive it. And the polarity is that coiling core training is we want to create on one side the longest and strongest that we can be, and then the other side, the maximum spring coil that we can be. And so by differentiating that and doing it on both sides, now when you go to bilateral, you're able to get those little millimeters more than you could have gotten otherwise. And the courses are taught by Chris Chamberlain,
who is an impressive dude. I know you were saying that Chris is a fan of Eat the Week, which I appreciate.
Yes.
But I know you guys had some link stuff on Instagram, and he was swinging that 203-pound kettlebell and flipping it in the air.
Like it's a little rattle.
And we have, 100, a 150, and a 200, and so we swing the 200 pretty religiously. The reason I ended up picking up the 200 is I read about some mythical workout that Andy Bolton had done where he swung 10 swings on the minute for 10 minutes. And so
Yep.
it was 100 swings in 10 minutes,
Yep.
and he deadlifted 1,000 pounds. So I went
Right.
and Kettlebell Kings is over here, go buy the 203, came back. Day one, I did 6 swings in 10, a minute on the minute for 10 minutes.
Right.
And just kept adding one each week and ended up getting up to 10 swings on the minute for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Imploded as soon as I was done, never touched a kettlebell for about a whole year. And then finally came back and brought it into the training as I realized I didn't have to actually murder myself each time. Before this, we met over and had a coffee and rapped a little bit. Mind retelling the origin story? About
sure.
you in New York and the rollerblading. Like
Absolutely.
that is,
Yeah.
as you were telling it, I was like, oh man, I wish we had the podcast rolling on this one because it was
Right.
It was so amazingly.
Save it for the close
Yeah,
up.
but it's great. I'd love to rehear it again.
Okay, so basically, it's high school football, college football, Williams College, Division III, because there is no Div 4. And now I'm all set to go work on Wall Street. All right, Williams a feeder school for that. I look at that and I say, oops, nope, I don't want to do that. So I dive into acting. And so I'm an actor / personal trainer, which means I'm a personal trainer in the beginning / actor, and each year a little bit more actor. And 1993, I had just had a knee surgery to fix a football injury. And the day after surgery, I'm limping through Central Park and I see these guys rollerblading and they're jumping over 14 trash barrels. They're fucking tan, they're ripped, and they're jumping over 14 trash barrels. I went to the store the next day and bought a set of rollerblades. I started skating before my knee was better. Okay. I got really, really good on it.
Did the skating help the knee?
Let's put it this way. It didn't. The knee was going to get better pretty quick, and I would say that the skating probably helped, but it didn't hurt. So,
side note: when I hurt my knee and I trained at Athletes Performance, they put me on a slide board.
it's a slide board, right?
And dude, we did slide board like ad nauseum on it. And
You're getting the lateral impact on a slide board that you don't get, on the fluidity of the actual rollerblade.
Gotcha.
So you're getting that little percussive thing as a stimulant on that.
Okay.
But there is a coordination and a transfer for, sort of outside edge to inside edge as you're sort of, skating along. But I got really good. And Manhattan Island is a roller rink or a skateboard rink, whichever you want to call it. And sort of we would all congregate in Central Park at the band shell. And it was very popular. Like now you can't be caught dead doing it, but it was popular. And so what I did, I love effortless power. Mm-hmm. And that gave me effortless power. The whole thing is a roller rink. And I did not walk for 6 years. So Friday night down on 15th Street at some club, I'm walking around in the club. I'm so good on skates you can't tell, but I'm 3-4 inches taller because I'm wearing skates. And then I don't have to pay for cabs. Starving actor. Mm-hmm. You go get a burrito and you're taking extra napkins because you don't have toilet paper.
Yeah, sure.
Like that kind of life, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was my feet, from 6 years of being in those boots, they got nubile weak, sort of like the Princess and the Pea.
Sure.
So, and I was in a rocky beach in Normandy, France, and I had to crawl off of the beach because my feet hurt so much to support my weight.
Wow.
And it was unbeknownst to me. It's like, my feet are killing me, right? And I collected cowboy boots at the time too. So if I did have shoes, it was probably a cowboy boot. So, and another time I was at the community swimming pool from my hometown and walking from the kiddie pool to the diving boards, I had to sit down because my feet hurt so bad.
Wow.
So I get a job, I make some money in acting. It was a, decent commercial, decent payday. I buy a motorcycle. It's a cheap motorcycle, starter motor.
What was your first bike?
Just a Yamaha Maxim.
Okay.
700.
Yeah, my first bike was a Honda 750 Super Sport.
Well, it was also
78. I paid $300.
Well, it was also my last bike.
Yeah. I had many after.
Yeah. I mean, I have a little buddy scooter in San Diego.
Yeah.
That I've gotten up to 72 miles an hour.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
But now that I'm a father, I don't ride it really.
No,
right?
it's good.
So I buy this bike and the starter motor breaks, relatively soon. And I'm jump starting the bike going the opposite way of traffic on 56th Street between 9th and 10th Avenue where I lived. And one morning I'm side saddled, the gas tank is full, a car swerves, I swerve, I drop the bike, the brake lever and the mirror brake. Gas is pouring out the tank. I wrench it up in haste, and I felt a twinge in my back. A few days later, I just collapsed in white hot pain in my back. And because my feet were not strong, I couldn't deliver force to the ground without this upper body compensatory tension. Because, if you step on a Lego, what happens?
Yeah.
The tension shoots up. You want to get over.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I didn't know any of this. So the back pain was persistent and chronic for a year. So more than a year. And it was the kind of thing where it was always on my mind to some extent. I was always squirming and always sort of like, oh, geez. And I just solved the problem by taking Aleve. And so I was buying the 6-inch high bottle of Aleve and popping them like Tic Tacs. I eviscerated my liver, my organs. It went toxic inside. But I'm a guy who will only stop when the bullet is, when the gun is up to my head and the trigger is cocked. That's when I'm like, okay, all right, now we have to change. So I did physical therapy. It didn't work. And then after that ran out from the insurance, the therapist told me, use this exercise ball. The inflatable stability ball, right? The Swiss ball.
Physio ball.
Physio ball,
Swiss ball.
There's a lot of names for it. And so when I started training on that, there's two aspects of balance training. There's controlling chaos, and then there's organizing harmony. So that's the two aspects. The more important one is the organizing harmony, and that's the one that's misunderstood, just sort of overlooked. And it's this both sides utilize shifting the weight with 100% integration into a fundamentally balanced position so the body's never out of balance. The textbooks will say walking is a series of controlled falls. Well, okay, is that really what it is? No wonder everybody's back hurts.
I think a lot of these explanations are people grasping at straws,
it's a white lab coat who can't move him or herself who's telling you what it is. Right?
Yeah, they're almost grasping at straws to answer a puzzle that they don't understand.
It's theoretical, not practical.
Yeah.
So anyway, the reflexive writing of controlling chaos can be likened akin to hitting a reset on the computer. Right? Computer's not working well, power it on or power it off and on real quick. And so those reflexive adjustments can take, very small spinal muscles that are, perpetually locked in this protective mechanism that, I'm not going to let you move. And you sort of, that little adjustment can sort of hit a reset and sort of bring it back to life.
I had an identical deal. I think I told you when I started teaching CrossFit football, I taught like 36 seminars that first year. The next year I taught like 25. And somewhere on the travels, I started getting terrible back pain from just sitting in terrible airplane seats. And we did a podcast with Stu McGill. And I told him, I said, dude, Stu, I'm having this terrible issue in the back and I'm having all this pain. And I kind of gave him the mechanism, what was happening. He's like, I want you to go into the gym and I want you to start doing like singles and doubles and triples. And I want you to work up to the heaviest single that you can squat. And I'll show you the video when we get done. I did like 135, 225, 275, 315, 365, 405, ended up working up to 500 for the slowest single I'd ever squatted in my life. I got done and my back stopped hurting. I called Stu back and he said, your entire life you've been lifting heavy weights. The minute that you get away from it, it's your nervous system reset. And if my back ever feels funny, I either get on the reverse hyper or I just start squatting heavy. So like kind of a similar kind of deal where you got to add a little chaos in the mix. Yeah. Well,
the need sort of facilitates the response.
Yeah.
Right. The stimulus and then the response. So the back pain started to go away. And then I saw Paul Chek standing on the ball squatting.
Yeah.
And so it was, I'll try that. So I put the thing underneath the pull-up bar. Everywhere I live, I install a pull-up bar.
Sure.
So a little 200 square foot apartment, I had a little pull-up bar. And use the pull-up bar to ensure that I'm safe. I sort of find my balance on it, and I'm barefoot. And it was like, okay, getting the hang of this. And I'm kind of coordinated, so I get very good at, the coordinated tasks. And I got extremely good on the stability ball. I could jump onto it. I could jump from one to another. I could squeeze it and jump a rope standing on the ball.
Wow.
And unbeknownst to me, my back was feeling incredible.
Wow.
So it was, but the mechanism I wasn't aware of. But when you're on that stability ball, there is a center line force where you're sort of scooping into it to avoid slipping off. And the feet are now articulating, so the intrinsic muscles within the feet are forced to strength train.
Did you figure out that not wearing shoes is how you strengthen your feet, or you just the fact that you couldn't?
It was just
stand
a
on
practice. Well, you can stand on the thing with your sneakers, but you're at home, and so I did. At trade shows, just in between the time when everybody's in a session, we would just mess around and stuff. So jumping on a ball or something. So I'd have shoes on then, but I did sort of intuitively think like, okay, I'm going to get more benefit from this to the extent that I can articulate the feet, as opposed to having the advantage with the shoe is you have a rubberized grip.
Sure.
Right. And sweat is the enemy. So, you have to keep your feet dry.
When I came in the NFL, I have real high arches.
Yep.
And Lee Cohen was the podiatrist, and he looked at my feet day one and said, hey, we got to make a decision. I'll either make you orthotics, or if you're not lazy, let me show you how to take care of your feet.
Yeah.
And I want you to promise me to never wear shoes other than on the football field.
Yep.
So I stopped wearing shoes. He showed me how to take care of my feet, how to stretch them, how to do constant maintenance on my feet. And I've never had any issues. And I firmly believe that a strong foot is probably why I've avoided knee, hip, and some of these other.
Absolutely. No question about it.
I mean, like the hip and the back, 100%. The knee injuries just came from basically people falling on me, which makes it hard.
If you think about it, like a strong neck is a strong core, strong feet are a strong body, and strong hands help you systemically with everything. Yeah. Right. And then you shore up the core and okay, there you go. Right. The arms and the legs fit in between.
But you were able to go because, obviously you talked about wearing rollerblades for 6 years and the feet were just destroyed from being in these
literally
boots.
Like the feet were like a baby's newborn bottom. It was just like the skin was really thin. It was really white and there was no muscles. And I was a collector of cowboy boots. I wanted to be James Dean, right?
Which are just killing the toes.
Oh God! And my pinky toe used to live under my fourth toe, and I had a crease that was sort of calloused as hard as the toenails themselves, because that's where it lived, right? And now my feet are big monkey feet. My toes. Anytime I take my shoes off, first thing somebody says, "Man, your feet." I grew 2 sizes in sneaker size, right? And that was just. Learning and then knowing and understanding what to do. And that was, once I invented the BOSU ball, which we'll get to in a second, I had the wherewithal to spend 100% of my time engaged in the study of movement, training, and how can I enhance my ability for what I'll call fight, flight, or flight, fight, response ability. So that's the foundation of everything I do. I want the first principles, what are the most basics. We got the flight, which is objective. We have the fight, which is subjective, but they are 2 sides of the same coin if you're going to optimize both. Because what I say is that running or locomotion is not just how fast, how far, how long. It's can you get there in the face of opposition, whether that's animal or other hominin. And can you stay there when you get there in the face of opposition? So flight is essential foundation to fight.
We interrupt this episode with a shameless self-promotion. Do you have limited access to equipment and restricted time to train? Let me introduce you to Lean and Able, our Bare Essentials training program for those lean on time and equipment. Don't let limitations hold you back. Get able-bodied with our adaptive training to tackle the daily demands of life. Head to powerathletehq.com/lean and able and claim your 7-day free trial today. Now back to the show.
The fight and flight response ability, that's what I care about, building at its foundation. So now go back to sort of standing on the stability ball. I believe sort of this both sides utilize polarity is how we want to create the maximum capacity through the whole thing. And so I was doing very aggressive training, jumping from one ball to another ball. Everything's turned on. You are ready for, you're not going to get hurt because you're prepared for the failure. Now, I was also doing this training inspired by Feldenkrais, where it is the absolute minimal effort so that you can discern the finest little gradations of force. And so if the nervous system can be aware of it, now you can change it and redirect to a more efficient path. If you're carrying a piano and a fly lands on the piano, well, you don't know the difference. So this idea of Feldenkrais would get you on the ground and completely relax, move this way, you feel how it's stuck there, and you'd sort of
Feldenkrais.
Moshe Felden. Oh, you are a lucky man.
Oh, I'm in.
That's like Breaking Bad and you haven't seen it.
Oh, is it? All right.
Yeah, and then Ida Rolf, who you probably heard of, right? But Feldenkrais was her contemporary.
Ah.
She was structural integration. He was functional integration.
I do know Ida Rolf, as I had a Rolfer work on me. And the hilarious part was they wanted to do a bunch of myofascial release on my skull.
Yeah.
And as a lady worked on my skull, and she works on it for 30 minutes, goes out and calls somebody, comes back and actually brought in 3 people.
Give me some finger power.
Well, they had never seen fascia so thick on my skull, and they couldn't believe that the density of my neck and this fascia. They were just like, this is the most amazing thing. And these people took turns working on me for about 2 hours.
So it was a lesson for them.
And they couldn't
experience.
They couldn't release the fascia.
Oh, man.
Because the scar tissue and basically what I'd built from obviously 10 years in the NFL had created this protective,
impenetrable helmet.
Like this exoskeleton.
Yeah.
And then they took me through it. And so I did a deep dive into the Rolfing stuff. But it was funny as these people were freaking out at my skull.
That's great. Yeah. Well, Feldenkrais was really my sort of my road into what I understand now. So, vicariously, he's a mentor. And so what I've also done is in my career as a, I guess, movement pioneer, I've sought out the highest level training that I can get. So I studied personally with one of Feldenkrais's first students in the first batch at Amherst College. Mm-hmm. I studied with the first students up at Esalen with Ida Rolf. And Tai Chi, I studied with the live-in teenage student William C.C. Chen of Changman Chin. So I want to get direct transmission. And when you're talking about somatics, it's all about the feeling.
Sure.
So when I'm studying jiu-jitsu now for 11 months, and what I do is I touch black belts in the Ribeiro jiu-jitsu, so I'm not fighting the blue belt as much as I'm now feeling where I want to go.
Well, this is another instance of what I call the Six Blades or the Ribeiro Mafia.
Yeah,
now
right.
all of a sudden, I just meet Shanji and Salo, and it's just funny how there's this interesting kind of Ribeiro Six Blades Mafia that just keeps exposing itself.
Well, and I relate to it because, the 6 and Star of David, my name's David, my birthday's 1/17, David kills Goliath 1, Samuel 17. So I have a whole nutty little story that makes me feel special and connected.
Sure.
And they intertwine into that story seamlessly.
Yeah.
Right. So Feldenkrais, anyway, I was using that principle of minimalism so that I can feel the slightest differential in tension through my body so that I can now do something about it as opposed to just muscle through ignorant of inefficiency. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the ball. It's a 75 centimeter. That's the big one. I'm watching the New York Knicks. It's the NBA Finals. And I'm standing on this ball and I close my eyes because eyes have a huge, input to balance. And then I upset the vestibular system by tilting my head back. And before you know it, smack, it went out from under me. My lower back landed on the ball. I did a backflip and then landed all the way over on my neck across the room. My first reaction was kick my feet to make sure that I could still kick my feet because I was genuinely afraid at that moment. And then I have a quandary, how am I going to progress this in that minimalist aspect where I'm going to get really subtle? So that, when you lose your balance, it's often not the first response to imbalance that makes you lose your balance. It's the over adjustment to that compensation. The motorcycle doesn't fall on the first thing. It's the over adjustment that wobbles it and how you go flying.
Sure.
Kind of a thing. So I'm laying in bed that night and I'm like, how am I going to continue training this? Because I need to continue training this because my feet are getting so strong and I'm getting this new movement capacity that I've never felt, even though being an athlete all my life. And then it just struck me, flash of inspiration. What if I cut the ball in half? Holy shit, oh my God. And it was a .com era where, money was flying, and I'm an actor considering how much longer I'm going to give this. I made $40,000 last year as an actor, and the rest personal training. I want to have a family. I want to support them, blah, blah, blah. And I just saw this is it. I'm going to patent this, and I'm going to promote this, and I'm going to make this a worldwide thing that is evergreen. They will sell 1 million stability balls next year and the year after. They will sell, millions of dumbbells, millions of barbells, So once you can become sort of that ubiquitous thing that is just during the course of a human life cycle, they're going to interact with that device.
Sure.
And I was fortunate enough to invent something that didn't exist.
We have one in our gym.
Yeah, exactly. And I brought you 2 more.
Oh, well, thank you. But like I said, did my shoulder rehab with them.
Yes.
We did push-ups in every variation with them, feet on them, hands on them, one hand on, one hand off, dynamic bouncing. It's just,
It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool that has utility if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And it's, I joke around with the people who hate BOSU balls is that, hammers suck. Every time I wash my window with the hammer, the window breaks. Hammers, therefore hammers suck.
Well, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a hammer. And
the nail.
It's just not a solid approach. Whether or not I firmly believe that when people are looking for clicks on the internet, it's easy just to kick the BOSU ball.
Yeah.
Like whether or not it's has utility or not, like however you view it, it's just another instrument that we have to effectively train our athletes.
It's the ultimate out or tell that you have an unresolved, insecure male ego. Bang! You listening out there?
Well, you've taken a lot of heat for it.
Oh, so much heat.
All the way to the bank.
Well,
yeah.
All the way to the bank is what allowed me to now discover things that weren't uncovered prior, that now to my haters, I get to make them stronger and ain't going to have a choice. Because in athletics, an advantage is a necessity. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, but you also utilize other people's stuff.
Oh, God, yes. I stand on the shoulders of giants.
God damn it, you stole that from me.
Yeah, right.
I've been saying that for years, but you were showing me videos of using, Chris's transformer bar.
Yes,
from
exactly.
Kabuki, which when I remember we first got it, I hit Chris up, and Chris Duffin, who's a friend of ours, been on this podcast. Where you been? Right. This thing is incredible.
Yes.
It's going to revolutionize. I don't think I've purposely back squatted since we got it.
Okay. Yeah.
We've used some Duffin bars and some, Cadillacs and some other ones. But for the most part, most of my athletes, I get them underneath there because I can get them squatting so much faster into a better position than I can on a straight bar.
Right. And there's no rules. You're training for the carryover. You're not training for the Olympic event.
Yeah, and I'm not training power lifters. And even I think that a power lifter probably would benefit from it because it doesn't beat the shit out of his shoulders and elbows.
What's really interesting about the powerlifting and those sports is really what distinguishes the Andy Bolton from others is the accessory work that they do.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the lift. It's how you peripherally fortify that lift to maintain the health and longevity to lift that much weight. I'm very good friends with Donnie Thompson, and he credits the kettlebell as well as, the Andy Bolton 10 and 10. So that accessory work is sort of, you could look at the Duffin bar as an ultimate accessory tool for when you have the burden of getting the arms back and that external torsion to agree that you don't need on the Duffin bar.
Sure.
And then just the positioning of, this is a front squat. This is the back squat.
Yeah.
Right? All within the same bar.
Well, and what's great is I can adjust the bar to help my athletes find their best squat.
Right. The 6'5" guy and the 5'7" guy, we might set it up a little different.
Yeah, no. If it doesn't look right, we just keep tweaking until we can find the exact setting that I need to have them have their best version of what I need. Because at the end of the day, I'm just looking for efficient movement.
You're looking for carryover.
Yeah.
It has to make the person better at what they do.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Well, that's why I don't get stuck on I think people get stuck in dogma. They get stuck in these systems,
correct.
and this is what we do. And I'm like, dude, if performance is the outcome, then you become a performance whore, and everything looks like a tool in the toolbox to make people better.
And to like the haters' credit, any man worth his seed will have inevitably gone through their asshole phase. Yeah. Until they've been humbled and now they understand, like, okay, but it's the competitive drive.
Sometimes it happens at a young age. Sometimes it happens later in life.
Yeah, and
I prefer to have it happen young.
Yeah, right. And dealing with adversity, true adversity, and facing it is the way that you do it.
Yeah.
Right? If you run from your fears, then it doesn't happen. If you confront your fears, well, then you learn how to, get over it, get through it, get under it, get beyond it. Right. So, and that's
so you invent this BOSU ball, right? You cut it in half, you go to Home Depot, you get the table, you make this whole thing. You think you've revolutionized the world. You get it patented.
Well, I didn't think that I revolutionized the world at that point yet. Now I think I am. I mean, I know I am. Balanced locomotion is the foundation for, the ultimate creature comfort. You get to move like God's unintelligent creatures. Not the ones that were so smart that they learned how to not move well inadvertently.
Sure.
So at that stage, what I recognized that this thing has utility, physical therapy, childhood development, exercise, and I realized that this is the American dream. I'm going to make money like my brother made money working, in tech. I'm going to make money so I don't have to work. That was really first and foremost on my mind from a decade of acting where you go, okay, when am I going to hit the bell? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're aspiring to get to the NFL and you don't get there, well, okay, drive UPS, sell real estate. What the hell are you going to do?
Yeah, you got to figure something else out.
You got to provide. Protect and provide is the man's charge. That's the way I look at it for myself. So if you can figure out how to create that American dream where you can now provide and your time is your own, you get to spend time with your kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get to really pursue the passions in your life. So that's, and that is an electrifying feeling. That's why communism doesn't work, because if you're not going to let me enjoy the fruits of my labor, well, I ain't going to work that hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What incentive do I have?
Sure.
And I broke my back. Well, I worked my ass off. Okay. I have inflated 350 BOSU balls with a hand pump to make the session come off. I have stayed up for 36 hours straight to make a wooden handmade one look like a finished one, to get it into Manhattan for the photo shoot in the Bahamas, where the plane's leaving at 11, and if I get there at 11:01, I don't get it featured in that for free. You do what it takes.
Sure.
You meet the demands. And that's, if I was forged in the sport of football. Football is 11-1. You have a role, you have a responsibility, you have to count on the other 10 guys, and you do yours, and I will not fuck up. Injury or death is acceptable, but failure is not. That's just what football is.
Yeah. Well, as I've told many people on this podcast, everything I learned good in this world, I learned playing football, and I learned from my parents.
It's the ultimate sort of metaphor for military war. It's the ultimate metaphor where you're not going to get killed. You're going to tear your knee or mess up your shoulder or get, concussed. When I play, I'm 53. So when I played, a concussion was not an injury.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You just get your bell rung, get back out there, rub some dirt on it.
Yeah. And we were taught to use the head.
Yeah. As was I.
Go after the ball with your head. But, the next best choice is go after the head with your head. And, there were points for breaking your helmet. I had the deepest scars in my helmet.
Yeah, that was
That's just what football was. Yeah. And you didn't have the technology of a better helmet.
Well, they were heavy.
And if you were a lower classman, you got this old helmet that didn't have the air bladder on top.
No, it had foam. Oh, yeah, dude, I remember those Rydell helmets before they actually had air in them, and they were just foam pads.
Right.
And they weighed like 8 pounds. They were awful.
But there's something wonderful about football because it is so real. NFL is not for long.
Yeah.
And, it's just so real. And it's a team sport. A well-coached football team can beat a more athletic team because they're well-coached.
Yeah.
at the lower levels, a well-coached basketball team is not going to beat the basketball team with LeBron James on the other team.
No, and you can just drop that dude in the middle of any
Yeah,
team.
right.
And
It's
they're
just,
going to
okay, if you're more, my football coach would say, if you're athletic, I'm going to put you on a basketball court and I'm going to see if you're athletic.
Yeah, no, that's I asked at our seminars one time. I asked people if they thought Usain Bolt was athletic, and then we showed a video of him sprinting. And can you tell if somebody's athletic based upon sprinting? And they were like, yeah. And then I showed a clip of him playing soccer.
Yeah, now you know.
And now we knew he was an incredible athlete.
Yes.
He was shaking people and doing all these movements.
Yes, now
and
you know.
I told him sprinting in a straight line doesn't display athleticism. It shows speed, power, dedication, all these other things. But at the end of the day, you have to move through space. You have to change direction. And it looks like all over, just basically, we talked a little bit about CrossFit. Nothing but bilateral hip hinging and a sagittal plane does not demonstrate athleticism.
Right, and you can get a condition called sagittalitis that makes you clunky.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it's very easy to cure, and that's the wonderful thing.
Well, but it's very easy to measure as well.
Yeah. Well, that's why it happens.
Sure.
Right. And it makes you look good.
Yeah.
Right. So then you got 2 out of 3. Now we got to get you moving well.
Yeah, but the ability to run in a straight line, is great, obviously, to run hurdles in the Olympics and whatnot. But on a field, especially when things are open loop and you have to move in direction and try to, match another defender, running a straight line very fast can almost be a liability.
Well, think about this. If you go back to, the basics, when it's, Adam and Eve or, the caveman, as it were, running in a straight line really didn't have a utility, because if you're going to track something, the way that the chaser catches the chasee is cutting off angles.
Yeah.
So if you know how to chase, you will always catch your prey, because now you get to see where they went and you get to cut the angle. They're running further than you are if you know what you're doing.
So there's years ago, they found some fossilized tracks in Australia. I don't know if you came across this, but they found them on a riverbed, lake bed that kind of like, obviously the water retracted. They found these fossilized prints, and there was probably 6 individuals running, and they were chasing something. Obviously there were some animal prints. And the crazy part is they started measuring them, and they were running at like between 26 and 28 miles per hour for an extended amount of distance. I mean, Usain Bolt ran, that fast.
Yeah, for 30 meters.
For 30 meters.
Yes.
These guys were running like over like a quarter of a mile, half a mile. They were running at this speed, and they were actually gaining speed. And they were obviously tracking something. So the fact that there were 6 individuals that just so happened to be running in a lake bed in Australia that were as fast as Usain Bolt over a greater distance while they were tracking an animal gives you an idea of probably the physical prowess of these individuals as a group, not just the individual.
Well, and now you give them spears.
Yeah.
And ultimately bow and arrow, right? Sticks, stones, ropes, those are the fundamentals that got us started in the beginning. And even though you're able to run 26 miles an hour for, the quarter mile or the 800 or whatever it is, you can't run away from a saber-toothed tiger. So situational awareness is what keeps you alive as a caveman. It's not your athletic ability to run away from a saber-toothed tiger.
Well, that's how all the Neanderthals died. Whenever they find the Neanderthal skulls, there's always huge gashes in the skull, because the way the Neanderthals attacked was they would go up and they would try to beat
and
things.
They didn't have the ability to do projectiles with the long, skinny weapon. They had the big, thick spear.
Yeah, they had spear or clubs or rocks.
Yes, correct.
And they would try to go and bash things with their forearms.
Everything is range and distance. And my favorite story in that regard is David and Goliath.
Yeah.
So David is this, call him 17-year-old shepherd, right? And he's tending to the family sheep. Now, the reality is, if I'm the shepherd and a wolf or something comes and gets one, well, guess what? He's coming back tomorrow to get the rest.
I think that story is a little different. Because
tell me.
If you
I'm going to tell you mine. You're going to tell me yours. And they get to listen.
Well, so the David and Goliath thing, if anything, David was much more equipped to beat Goliath.
Well,
because,
but that's
because
okay.
one, yeah.
You wait for my story.
Well,
you wait for my story.
Think about, he's sitting there tending the flock all day, so he's really good.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And he's able to kill things at distance.
Yes, that's exactly it.
So all of a sudden you bring up this big lug that, is standing there, who's probably bigger than any animal he's done. Yeah. And what does he do? He picks up the rock, hits him right then.
So,
the guy's a wizard with this thing.
The Malcolm Gladwell is a brilliant author, and his depiction of David and Goliath is the worst depiction there has ever been, because he makes Goliath this oaf who's blind and can't even walk down to the battlefield.
I've heard it.
That is bad casting. That's bad writing, okay? You want Goliath to be Bo Jackson plus 600 pounds. And Brock Lesnar and John Jones. Like, he's the baddest ass guy. He can't be killed. Now, David comes up to the front to bring his brother some food.
Yeah.
He hears the king yell out, okay, it's been 40 days, 40 nights. The one who can kill him gets my daughter's hand in marriage and the pot of gold. Oh, I get to be royalty and rich? David's like, excuse me, I'm going to go do that. And he knew it was going to be easy.
Yeah.
He knew it was going to be easy because they're like, no, you're an amateur. You can't do it. And he goes, look, I killed a lion yesterday. And the day before that, I killed a bear. I think that guy's going down. So he grabs 5 smooth stones from the river, puts it in a sling. And he's like, you killed my father. Prepare to die. Bang. And Goliath had a shield bearer. Then he runs over, cuts the head off, says, give me the money.
Yeah.
Give me the...
So do you know Rob Wolf?
The name.
Yeah, so Rob's kind of the one of my oldest friends, but he wrote a New York Times bestseller, the paleo kind of. He's like the paleo guy.
Okay.
Jits guy, lives in Montana, just an amazing dude that's helped. And I mean, pretty much just the first reason I got into podcasting. Rob got asked to go on this show, which was called I Caveman, where they took all these paleo kind of ancestral people and they basically sent them to Colorado. Think they gave them skins and pretty much like wanted to take these people and put them into a Paleolithic kind of era and ask them to survive. Yeah. So Rob knew that he was going to go on this show, and Rob's fear is one, to be hungry and cold. So he learned how to make fire with a bow drill, and then he also brought his buddy to teach him how to use
Addle.
Yeah, like a big lawn dart, like the Addle.
Right.
And so he practices like a motherfucker, goes on the show, and all of a sudden they're on the stock. They haven't eaten for a couple days, like maybe a week, and everybody's super hyper focused, and they're, obviously stinking, wearing these animal deals. So he gets up on this big elk about 20, 30 feet out, pumps up and lawn darts this thing, gets it in the neck and drops it.
Oh.
So the Boone and Crockett people figured it was like the largest land mammal taken in North America
by hand
in like the, since the Ice Age, right? And the video is incredible of him lawn darting this thing. And every time I look at it, I think of David and Goliath. That there David was sitting there practicing, killing these things, defending his flock. And then this big, and I've listened to Gladwell's deal. I don't think, I think the idea that he was some overly sized GH,
pituitary gland, all like mangled.
No, I think he was probably a big, strong dude. But this guy is absolutely, executed this like a wizard.
It's range and it is distance. If I can hit you with 150 miles an hour, and it's going to take you 25 seconds to run over to me.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah, and you catch a stone in the head that's traveling at like 150 miles an hour?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, done.
And that's a big stone.
Yeah.
And it's oval.
Have you ever seen one of my favorite deals is Rafael Ruiz, who trained me in the NFL, is Filipino. And one of his
Kali.
they do Kali and Eskrima.
That's right. If you're good with a stick, you're good with your body.
One of his buddies, his specialty was bullwhips.
Yep.
And he could wield bull whips like they were machetes.
Yep.
And the range on these things, they were 12, 15 feet. The guy could snap and knock out candles with them.
He could put your cigarette out.
Oh, and take off heads, especially when they would put little metal pieces on the end and they could slice things. To see him wield those things is frightening.
Well, that's weaponization, because that's the most sincere form of physical education is, can you get there in face of opposition? If you look at what, archery on the back of a horse and holding arrows in between each finger so you can
Genghis Khan and the Mongols.
Right. So, and it's just the most sincere form of exercise. Yeah. And efficiency will always govern the capacity to go as far as you can to actualize whatever potential you have.
Sure.
It's first principle physics, and it's just simple. And what it is, so it's physics is the mathematical sort of chalkboard, but it's calculus the rate of change and differential. That's how you win. So if you know how to compute the calculus and that spiral, so the object in motion stays in motion, it's not this, that's how you move well and better than your opponent. And it's interesting because what I say is the Rosetta Stone of training modalities is a simple piece of rope. And the secret to getting good is don't jump through it for a month and learn the 4 fundamental patterns that emerge from not jumping through it. Get good at that, muscle memory, you're wired, and then you learn it wireless, and you're 100% integrated on the beat. So jumping rope is a syncopated hands down, feet up. That's float like a butterfly. Very
Sting
good.
like a bee.
And now the sting like a wasp that keeps on stinging is the roll of the rope where it's unified. It's on beat. Everything down, everything up. Deion Sanders, Randy Moss, Usain Bolt. That is the key, and rotation. So the reason why not everybody is a Bob Hayes, and if you're fast doesn't necessarily mean you're going to thrive in the NFL, is because you can't rotate. You can't change direction.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Barry Sanders was so good.
I mean,
it's
spectacular.
Still to this day.
Oh, come on.
You know, I don't care who you watch. If you put on Barry Sanders, his ability to go as fast as he could, put his foot in the ground, and go back this way, it's unreal.
And he just, if he didn't cut it off, he'd have the most yards.
Well, he was never going to get out of Detroit.
Yeah, right.
And he was never going to get a chance to play for a Super Bowl and win a championship. They were never going to let him go. So
imagine him behind the Dallas Cowboys line that Emmitt Smith had. Just imagine now for a moment.
Well, just imagine he was anywhere other than Detroit. Anywhere
well, that's
else.
What I'm saying. He has the dubious distinction of the most yards lost from scrimmage. That you subtract that number from the ones gained.
I know.
He's like 1,100 yards behind scrimmage.
Because, I mean, people were just getting rained through on it. But his ability to change direction, the era of the running back has since died.
Yes.
You know, there was a time when you had guys like Bo Jackson and you had Barry Sanders and you had these individuals that ran the rock because the NFL was predicated on running the ball.
Correct.
I mean, it was like the run is going to set up the pass, 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Yes.
I played in the NFC East where we, Broad Street Brawlers, we were going to put it in and pound it in there in the NFC East.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden they changed the rules because they can't have these quarterbacks.
The fans want to watch scoring.
Well, fantasy football.
Yeah,
so it was fantasy football was predicated on points.
If you remove gambling and alcohol, then NFL does not have the same interest. And the fantasy football was the innovation that allowed you to care about off-market teams.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you got money on it. It's interesting. It's just fundamentals.
Yeah, and they needed scoring.
Yeah, you needed scoring.
Points. I mean, it's the whole deal.
Exactly. And now Tom Brady is amazing.
He's a good player.
Right? Okay, so arguably one of the best ever. Now, put him in Joe Montana's shoes where Jim Burt is going to hit you into next week as opposed to you get upset because some guy pulled off and he touched you.
Well, but Tom played in that era. So you have to remember the era which I played in.
But the era has always been decreasing.
Well, the era was still
Jim McMahon and remember Charles Toomey Martin?
I know. I mean, but
so I'm saying it used to be a thug fest.
But then it ended in about 2009. All of a sudden, once the strike hit and then the new CBA came in, everything changed. There are, hits in those early 2000s, which was kind of the peaking.
Enough.
So he played in those eras in 2000.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, he even said, if they didn't change the rules, I could have never played 20 years.
Exactly. And I'm not trying to take away from his greatness. I'm just saying the reality was, I know a guy who knows Joe Montana, and he asked him, why'd you retire? He said, Monday hurt too bad.
Yeah. Or do you remember those hits that Aikman would take?
Oh, God.
Before they poured all that money into Dallas?
Oh, my gosh.
Dude, Aikman, like the hits that Aikman took, to this day, have you ever seen any of them? Like, I don't even know how that guy's on TV announcing.
I know. Well, I mean, just think of the Brett Favres and the John Elways, the guys and Steve Young, and just the era when the quarterback was tough because he had to be. Ron Jaworski, where's 56?
I know, Giles. We used to do speaking engagement with him. Giles was great, but it was definitely a different time.
Yes. And well, the guys are bigger, faster, stronger now, so you sort of have to do it.
They're not.
Tell me that.
I really think, the guys, there are some genetic freaks and there were big guys and the speed and all that, but the guys were, it's just an evolutionary deal because the players are not so beat up because they took the pads off in this.
Yes.
So now you're seeing a faster NFL and a bigger NFL because they're not doing as much work on the front side. I mean, the first year I went to training camp with Andy Reid, we had a buy-in preseason. So I was 42 days in training camp. We did pads in the morning. Was 3-hour grinder. We did pads in the afternoon, 3 hours, pads in the morning.
Hard to keep weight on.
Then had a special teams practice. We held that schedule for 42 days.
Wow.
Now you go in the NFL, they get 5 padded practices the entire year.
Wow.
So they're going in shells. Everything is walkthroughs. Players.
Yes.
So you're seeing a faster, stronger, bigger, more physical NFL because dudes aren't fucking dying in practice.
You're not beat up.
No, I mean, when I played for Dick Vermeil, it was multiple 3-hour practices, 9-on-7, 1-on-1, inside
school.
run. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, we called it the daily baton death march.
Yeah.
Where,
Okay.
the players that were going to make it at the end were the ones that were just dumb enough to stay there and just survived.
Right.
So now they realize they're investing all this money. You got $100 million. You
Keep
can't
them
fucking
around.
kill these guys.
Yes,
You got to get them to
exactly.
play on Sunday.
Right.
So I don't think that the NFL technically has gotten faster and bigger and all this.
Yes.
But it's not because it's evolved. It's just that they're not killing their players in practice.
Yeah,
If they had,
you're treating the help better.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I remember after that CBA, Tony Gonzalez called me. He's like, dude, we could have played 20 years in this league. Tony could have played as long as he wanted. He's like, what we went through with Dick Vermeil and you went through with Andy Reid, he goes, we'll never see that.
That hard-nosed
Yeah. I mean,
football.
by the time we got to the first game, we were like, oh, thank God the games are here because they're not going to fucking
It's
kill us.
easier than practice.
Yeah, dude. There wasn't a single game that I played in that was more physical than what we saw in practice. There was more hits, more this. It just is how it worked.
When I was in college, what we did was Tuesdays and Wednesdays were live. So you'd have first team offense, first team defense, and it's live. Yeah. And the greatest form of respect that you can give to a teammate who plays on the other side of scrimmage is hit him as hard as you possibly can, never dirty, right? Because now we can trust each other that we're going all out so that on Saturday we're going all out, right? But then on Thursday, it was more, walk through, but, you don't hit the guy.
Yeah, we call it getting to a fit.
Yeah,
so
there
like
you go.
you
Exactly.
go up and
prove that you were there.
Yeah, just proving,
right? And then Fridays just walk through. But it was a nice balance but when I was in high school, it wasn't double, it was triple sessions. And you weren't allowed to have water.
Yeah. Oh, I know, dude.
And I learned the trick. You know those little
water was weakness is what we were told.
Listen, you were not allowed to have water. I don't care. Yeah. Right? And you know those little white cups that are sort of fluted? Yeah. My trick was I would push it and blow into it and then undo it. So I had a bowl because you were only allowed one cup.
So that
was if you were an upperclassman.
We could bring water. But we can only have water when we switch from offense to defense. So we were on the field for 90 minutes as offense. You get a water break and then 90 minutes for defense. So it was 3 hours.
Yeah.
And we would do that every single day. We even hit, let's say like our games were on Friday. Yeah. We still hit in pads on Thursdays.
Wow.
So we didn't even have walkthroughs. We were full pads.
Wow.
Go on Thursdays.
Yeah. Mine, I think, my college, he was an NFL player and he was a coach. He was my positional coach and a head coach, and I think he had a really well balanced scheme.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have that. We had a 5'4" Marine.
Well, you're playing at a higher level than I was.
This was in high school.
Oh, that's high school.
So,
I'm talking college.
My
high school we were treated like, like,
dude, my high school coach was a 5'4" Marine who used to go out and do like a 20-mile run at lunch and then come back and try to just kick our dicks in the dirt. I mean,
right. Life is suffering.
Oh my God. And football was I remember when I got to college, they have managers with these like kind of big cube water things and they have a motor and they basically hit it and it shoots cold water out.
Yes.
And I remember them like walking around and be like, do you want water? And I was like, looked around. I'm like, we can have water whenever we want. And I literally took this thing and it was cold. I like shot at my mouth and I drank so much water that my gut got waterlogged. I was like, I think I'm gonna throw up. And they were like, why'd you drink so much water? I'm like, because I've never had water in practice before. It was the most amazing thing. I'm like, dude, this is really living. I can't believe we got water.
That's like the kid who was sort of, sheltered in high school. They never drank alcohol. In freshman fall, they fail out.
I liked just the fact that we got water.
Access.
Oh my God. It was the most amazing thing.
That's funny.
I mean, but I know we sound like relics talking about it.
Yeah, right.
But it's because this time will never happen again. Like these
correct.
kids will never know what it's like to play Friday and get excited to go pick up the paper on Saturday morning, hoping that your
the
picture.
Paper? What's the paper?
Yeah, the newspaper.
Oh, really?
Do you remember the newspaper?
No, what's that? No, I used to deliver them.
Oh, I did too. But I remember getting up Saturday morning and trying to go get the Daily Breeze, the LA Times, just see if we got pictures and what the games were and this, and so excited because how else, wasn't on the radio, wasn't on TV, and there was no internet.
Right.
So then all of a sudden you get up, Saturday morning and go get the paper, and then we'd have lifting, conditioning, and then film on Saturdays.
Right.
And everybody would bring their papers. and going through just hoping
Yeah,
that you get a picture. Or you're mentioned.
I was lucky because when I was in high school, I made the paper twice as a sophomore because blocking a punt and chasing down a guy on kickoff. So I was only on the field for special teams, but I got the pictures.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Dude, that's So just to kind of peel it back.
Yes.
So you get the idea that you're going to cut the physio ball in half, right? You go to Home Depot, you buy a circular table, glue, epoxy, staples
too, yeah.
and pretty much make this cocoon, nail it all in, and inflate this deal.
Yes.
And when you put it on the ground, you got on it. Was it as good as what you thought? Did it answer all the questions, or did you think like
it was
shit?
As good as I thought? And the key to a BOSU ball, why it is a special device and not just another wobble board, is because when the dome side is up, the device itself is fundamentally stable. So if you think of a trampoline, do you have any fear of loading a trampoline with 100% commitment? No. A BOSU ball is a mini trampoline that is convex, and so you're not pronating in. You get that supination to pronation as you hit it, which just happens to be the sequential order of an organized foot strike on the ground. So the nervous system gets to fundamentally relax, and this is not something that you have to even think of. It's just subcortical. If you stand on a Dynadisc, your tension will rise up because you know intuitively that your ankle is going to snap if you were to hop on it.
I'm not a fan of the Dynadisc.
It raises tension up, and there's not enough training time to acclimate yourself to that stimulus.
Well, also, if you're a big dude, when I would step on it, I would pretty much collapse the whole thing.
Yes, exactly.
So
you're like rolling over.
And it just felt like I was going to roll my ankle pronation. And,
exactly. What you're going to do is you're going to come down, and then you're going to get too much degrees of roll too fast, and now you didn't do anything for you but hurt you.
No.
Right. So the BOSU ball is the opposite effect of that. It's a balance of stable, unstable when the dome is up. And that's the truest value in it. Now, that allowed an aerobics room of 35 women to bounce up and down for an hour and have a good time and have the guys in the weight room look at that, and I'd never be caught dead using that thing, right? So, that created some impression. And then the association with unstable Dynadisc. Now the BOSU ball, much easier to market the study. If it's a BOSU ball makes you weaker, or a Dynadisc makes you weaker.
So the actual study that was done was never done on the BOSU ball?
It was not
BOSU
done. BOSU ball. It was
BOSU
not.
ball.
It was not done on BOSU balls.
And was it Eric Cressy, that did the unstable research or unstable training?
It was the results. It was unstable surface training,
not having relatable transference to.
Well, actually, no. It was even worse. It was negative. Like then the narrative was it makes you weaker. Oh, I mean, you want to poison something? Tell someone who wants to get stronger that's going to make you weaker. I mean, I'm going to avoid that like the plague.
Sure.
Right? And if I don't have that true confidence, I don't want to be the guy who says it and gets ostracized, or, I don't want to be that guy. There's very few people that young in age who march to the beat of their own drummer and don't give a damn what somebody else thinks.
Yeah, but how many people were just using that primarily in their training? Like, I mean, it looks to me like it's a supplement that somebody would use. It's not like you're going to load up like, hey, I'm going to stand on this thing with 500 pounds on my back.
Well, here's what's interesting. The reason why we created the BOSU Elite, the ones that I brought you, is because the dome is substantially firmer, so you're not getting hijacked by instability, and your objective is to compress the dome. So what we engage in with Weck method is limit force elastics. So limit force elastics. Here's the rationale for doing it. If I have a slingshot that I pull 100 pounds of tension, so the scale says 100 pounds, versus a dumbbell that is 100 pounds, the rate of force is exponentially higher for the elastic tension than the mass tension. They are both useful. You need to train both. But the speed and the current of the force is what excites the nervous system, that you're getting this like it's a current. And the post-activation potentiation from a limit force elastics for the appropriate hold is superior to what you can get with mass. It's the difference between an isometric and an expometric. And so limit force elastics, it's rubber bands that stretch and pull to limit, given a particular position, joint angle for X number of time. And if you know what you're doing, you can make that give you the maximum tension through your coil to optimize one side. You do it on the other side. And on the BOSU ball, you get this compression into elastics. And it's the same idea. If I drop a kettlebell on the ground versus drop a kettlebell on a BOSU ball, which one's going to bounce higher? So you can use your hands to compress it. You can do it bilateral with the fingers downhill to create internal torsion. You can do it with the fingers uphill to create external torsion. You can cup it with your elbows bladed at 180 when one's under and one's over facing each other. So you're getting a coil. And this is incredibly valuable for making you stronger. Anybody listening to the podcast right now, Instagram, eroding weakness. Eroding weakness, Chris Chamberlain, you're going to see somebody who is so strong. And the reason he works with me is when he came to see me after a half hour, he said a 40-pound PR in the bench press. Okay, that's why he works with me. And then I showed him coordination. I made him stronger.
All I had to see was him flip that 203 the way that he did on the kettlebell swing. Right. So I for me, I just have to see somebody do one thing.
Yeah, okay, right. You have a trained eye, and obviously,
because I've swung that motherfucker.
You can appreciate what that means.
Well, I have a love-hate relationship with that kettlebell, and to see a dude pop it and then be able to catch it and tie it together
and do reps.
Yeah, no, it's at that point I was like, dude, like when I met him yesterday, I was like, that's badass.
Well, he was he loves you, right? Eat the week. He wears the shirt, and
we'll make sure to send him some more.
Yeah, he's like, John Wellborn hugged me.
Dude, super cool cat. And he wears the gear. And but yeah, to see him toss that motherfucker is rad.
All right, so listen up what I'm about to say next. And you out there, listen up to what I'm about to say next, because it was done with a purpose and a rationale, with the idea that we want maximum carryover, okay? So we have a platform that we can regulate the height of our deadlift, the trap bar deadlift, which is something that we love, and we love to pull it as heavy as you possibly can.
As do we.
Okay. So now Chris sets it up where the BOSU ball is going to be the platform, and we're going to raise the weight to an appropriate height so that he has the joint angle that he wants to pull at, because the BOSU ball is going to create a false height. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's a BOSU Elite that is firm. He sets up on the bar. It is 600 pounds on a trap bar. He pulls 600 pounds on a trap bar on the BOSU Elite. It's not a circus trick. And think about it for a second. Who's strong as hell?
It's flat, and so he's on
No, he's on the dome.
He's on the dome.
He's on the dome. It's centerline force. He pulls 600 pounds. He puts the 600 down, and he gets off. He gets off, and he goes, fuck yeah. And he starts just moving with authority. So it's not a 600-pound deadlift that you're done, let the blood come back to my head. And that's a limit force elastic. I consider strength training pressure management. It is literally that simple. Pressure management. That is why, all things equal, bigger is better. Mm-hmm. There's more fluid. You got a better hydraulic. We are hydraulic creatures regulated by pneumatics. That's what we are. And the guy who was born big tends to be more fluid than the guy who had to, crunch it, eccentric, go, build big. Bo Jackson didn't have to build it, so it was 100% fluid.
Yeah.
Brian Bosworth had to build it, and so he gets run over by Bo.
Yeah.
Right? These are just...
Bosworth doesn't live that far from here.
Great guy. I love him, right? The fact that he did the commercial, right? The Nintendo commercial. That's great.
And
it wasn't even technically a run over because it was an oblique angle.
Yeah, he had a bad hit. It's just the fact that also, I don't care what era you play in. Right. You drop Bo Jackson into any era, he's the best player ever.
Lawrence Taylor in any era is Lawrence Taylor. Yeah. It's just there are some people that transcend.
Well, people love to compare eras and, this guy this and the NFL.
Yeah, right.
No. You can take these guys and hands down. You drop that.
Yeah, Bo Jackson anywhere, exactly.
Anywhere. Like, I mean, he was, so I met Bo Jackson in his heyday. 6'2", 6'3", 235, 240 pounds. I mean, he looked like a offensive lineman.
Big cat.
I mean, huge. So when Art Shell, who was the head coach of the Raiders, was my Pee Wee basketball coach.
Oh, wow.
And so Chris
You
Shell.
got such extraordinary experiences.
I know. It's, I have forever laughed at this like interesting life I've led where just happen people come in my path and they end up being, you know, individuals. That
well, that's
so
you and me now.
Yeah, us now. Well, that's why we started this podcast, just for the fact I had really cool friends.
Yes.
And there was an amazing genealogy that we could create by connecting on this and having amazing conversations with intelligent people, which helps drive you further.
Well, and I think what I look at is for me, legacy is the most important thing. My family is legacy and my work is legacy. So I want the time here that I have done to positively contribute to the betterment of humankind. And I'm very concerned with how things are going right now in the world.
Well, I don't think that you can be a father or running a business or trying to influence people in a positive way and not be nervous with the present state of what's happening.
Exactly. And I sincerely believe that physical education is the salvation, because you don't have tremendous money interests targeted at physical education. So the big pharma, the big tech, the big things, and the big sugar, now they are working against it, but the best defense is integrity. And the only integrity that we can trust is the physical realm. Because you can say anything and you can believe anything and you're free to change that. So how many push-ups can you do? 10. Let's see. You did 3.
Yeah.
Right? So now we know. And physical integrity begins with balance. And if you are not balanced, you are fundamentally not as confident as you would otherwise be.
Yeah.
And that is a fundamental fact in its physiology. And I figured out balanced locomotion. It's head over foot. Be there when you get there, head over foot. Walking is no longer stumbling along, recovering. It is big cat Bo Jackson. I feel good, and so I can treat others better. That is, I believe, the fundamentals. And it's guys like you who are aspirational and badass and legit. Guys out there are going to listen to you a lot more than listen to me because you have you're cast better.
Well,
you're a better man.
Well,
right?
No, it's not that. I just have the ethos for the fact that I was probably too stupid to stop playing football, and I was real good with my head and hands.
No, but what I'm saying is that, like, when I was 8 years old, 13 years old, I'm going to look at you, I'm going to look at me, and who do I want to be? I want to be you. I don't want to. I used to hate myself. Why am I so skinny? Why don't you? Now, I've learned to just say, okay, great. You know, I'm happy with what I got.
Sure,
right?
sure.
And, you know, and I had a friend of mine. His name is Chris Holder. You probably have him on the show at some time because he does this deep Taoist education, meditation, and he treats people. Now, he put me on a table. He touched me 3 times, but I could feel these profound energetic waves. And I got up from the treatment. He said, you're going to have very vivid dreams tonight. I dreamed that night that I had the choice, my soul. Do you want to inhabit David Weck, or do you want someone else? Because now's your chance. As a younger man, I'd have traded. Give me Bo Jackson, right? Give me LeBron. Give me Michael, because athletics was my passion.
Sure.
In that dream, I chose David Weck. And that was when I sort of fundamentally leveled up a sense of self-esteem and self-confidence that I'm here for a reason. I have certain things to contribute. They're very unique. And I get to be the best at something.
I've always believed shame is a powerful motivator.
Oh, God, yes.
And so I'll just give you an example. I was fast when I was younger, and then I grew a bunch, and all of a sudden I wasn't fast. And we used to do these time runs every Friday for our grades in PE in middle school. And I went from getting A's to all of a sudden like getting a C. And I was slow. And I remember talking to my teacher. I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I used to be fast and now I'm slow. Can we find somebody to help me run faster? And so my mom talked to my dad. My dad's like, I ain't paying for that shit. So I went to my teacher and I was like, I'm too embarrassed to come home with a C on my report card. So is there something I can do? And she's like, well, you can do some after credit every Friday. The kids that miss have an extra credit run. If you stay after school and do this extra credit run, we'll just give you more points and you'll basically average out.
Yeah.
So I lied to my mom and was like, hey, can you pick me up later? Because I'm going to miss the bus. I have to study late.
Yes.
So I did these extra credit runs after school so I could get more points, so I could get an A on my report card because I was too humiliated coming home with a C in PE.
One of the problems now is that shame is no longer
kids today would go and complain. The parents would come in and the kids can't do this.
Right.
I didn't talk to anybody. I was just humiliated that I was slow. Right. And I was fucking hated it.
Well, think about what we see and witness now in society. Shame is no longer... there's no consequence for being shamed. You're not shamed.
No, it's and I don't wish it upon anybody, but I don't think I'd be sitting here now if I didn't have that shame where I wasn't good enough and I had to do something to be better. We grew up in a tougher era. Yeah, it was just way different.
It was way different.
And when I went to high school, my brothers told me all the cool kids play football. I'll go play football. I wanted to lift weights, and I knew all the big people that I wanted to have big muscles and be big and strong. I knew that there was something that all of the big people were around these weights. I didn't necessarily know why. Maybe it was they're just big through osmosis by being around the weights. So I go in there to lift weights, and there's 80 kids in a room and a teacher. So we basically, what do we do? The first day we max out, and I benched 115. All my friends.
How old?
14 years old.
14 years old.
All the other kids bench 150, so they were all training with 45 on. Okay. And I had to have my own bench with less than the 45s.
Right.
So all of a sudden I felt this moment of shame that I wasn't as strong, not realizing that I'd never lifted weights before and I wasn't wired up to do this.
Well, and the neurologic gains you very quickly.
Oh yeah. Then all of a sudden it flipped on like that. But there was this sense of not being good enough.
Yes.
And I'm going to somehow have this element of shame that I'm not going to be the person that I imagined myself to be. And I'm, the whole world's going to laugh at you. Adam Sandler, comedy stuff. It's they're all going to laugh at you. That type of shit. That was real. And whether or not it was real or imaginary, it created in my mind bigger than it was. That was the tackling fuel or the shit that fueled me.
See, unfortunately now now that is expressed technologically. So now you're being shamed online on the social media, and it's, now it's not just the peer group, it's a whole bunch more, and the retaliation isn't get better. It's, what is it?
How you get back at fucking people
right.
is getting big and strong, getting a college scholarship, going there and going and playing 10 years in the NFL. We know your health and wellness are a priority. That's why we partnered with Stay Classy Meats. They are dedicated to connecting you with the finest, responsibly raised meats on the planet. Their direct partnerships with farmers and ranchers mean they can deliver to you nationwide. They're more than a meat company. They're a network of athletes and farmers committed to superior nutrition. Stay Classy works with producers like R.C. Carter, whose regenerative agricultural practices result in beef that's packed with 75% more essential amino acids, phytonutrients, and a perfect blend of omega-3/6 ratio. Experience a difference with their 10-pound ground beef or 15-pound assorted meat subscription box, specially branded as the Stay Classy Power Athlete box. Click on the link and order today with the promo code POWERATHLETE, all one word. Join us in securing your health and food supply chain. Stay Classy Meats, superior nutrition, naturally. It's time to step up your game. Stay classy with us. So for me, a big part of this was feeling hey, maybe I don't belong. I shouldn't be here. You're a middle class white kid from Palos Verdes. Your dad's a lawyer. He drives a Porsche, probably better than middle class, upper middle class. And you have no business being here.
Right.
Just like Andy Reid said to my mom when he asked her, John fights on the drop of the hat and is fucking mean as shit. How does a middle class, kid in this environment? My mom's like, what do you think? My son's a pussy? You think I raised a weak child?
There you go.
And my mom fucking got in it. And Andy Reid comes over to me. He's like, your mom's pretty intense. And I was like, yeah, don't call me out on the shit. My mom's not going to flip out.
Right.
But that was how I was raised. That it didn't matter where you come from. I wasn't going to be shamed or I wasn't going to be put down and nobody was going to work harder.
I had a bully situation when I was a kid where a fifth grader was picking on me in the first grade. And I would, pick on me to the point where I cried. And I went home after school, and my mom, she showed me, she goes, the next time he, the lower jaw and the teeth, she goes, the next time he does it, you grab him in the shoulders and you knee him in the balls. The next time he did it, it was down like sort of the pathway to get from the school to the road. We're halfway there. He starts to pick on me, and I just come right up the center line, and I knee him in the balls. First grader drops a fifth grader, and guess what? The humiliation and shame that he now had to wear, I wasn't bullied ever again from that kid.
Yeah.
And it was my mom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was what happened. You have a bully. Like the way I got into martial arts was my older brother. There was a kid that beat up my older brother and got into, was kind of bullying him. My brother comes home, straight up 80s Karate Kid style. My dad takes my older brother down to the karate dojo and did the Shotokan deal. And after about 3 weeks, he just dropped my brother and I off because my brother was practicing all this shit on us. So we did that, and we pretty much would get there early. And there was a back room, and my brother listens to this, he's going to laugh, but they had like this back room, and there was a punching bag and speed bag and a bunch of shit. What we would do is we would turn off the lights and shut the door and just fucking try to fuck people up.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And so we would invite kids and be like, hey, you want to come in early? And we would just shut the door and just straight up Fight Club. And then we'd go out, and it was old school. It was hardwood floors. And you had to kneel, and it was like you get throws. I mean, the whole thing.
Right.
The instructor walked around with this bamboo boken. He'd fucking crack you with it. And I remember I came home and told my mom, I'm like, he hits us with sticks. My mom's like, yeah, because we would watch, Kung Fu theater on Sundays. She's like, yeah, I've seen all those Kung Fu movies. That's what this shit is. It's martial arts. What are you going to complain about
That's
it?
Iron Shirt.
Yeah. And she was like, I just was like, okay, so he's supposed to hit us with things? And she's like, yeah, that's what happens at that place.
That's hilarious.
And then I got into 1986. Hagler versus Hearns.
My God. 3 round. Whoa.
Dude, where those guys just stood in the middle and punched each other. So
and that's before they paid them.
I was 10 years old. We watched it at home. And my dad was always a boxing fan.
Yes.
A bunch of his buddies came over, and I sat on the couch and we watched it. And I remember thinking at that moment, kicking is stupid and I don't want to kick anybody anymore. So the only place that had boxing was this John Barrett Kickboxing Academy that I could ride.
That's how you started boxing at 10 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, so we went.
Hagler Hearns.
Yeah, so I went to this John Barrett Kickboxing Academy, which is the only place I could ride my bike because the Y and had boxing in San Pedro was too far. So I would ride to this thing in Torrance, and they had a deal where if you did kickboxing, they teach boxing. And then when I got to high school, and then ended up progressing, and then I trained with this guy Nono Laboncier, and then we went to Cal and a Cal boxing team in the off season. And then obviously with Roth and all the stuff we did there. So that was kind of how I got into it, was basically Hagler versus Hearns, and then watching Mike Tyson punch out. We would play the video game.
Yeah, right. Bo Jackson on the field.
And then watching
Mike Tyson punch out.
Watching Tyson fight.
Yes. The uppercut on that game. Right.
Yeah. The cut in the towel, no socks.
Yes.
Sprinting out.
Correct.
I mean, like the fear that he put into people, and his deal
Michael
was
Spinks, when he went in the ring with him, I mean, it was you could feel the fear in him.
Yeah, and what was it, Bruno?
Well, Trevor Burbick fell down 3 times from
I've never in my life seen a level of intensity, and all I remember thinking is hearing Cus D'Amato talk about going heavy, hard into the body.
Yes,
where if you fucking punish the body, the head will fall. I took the same approach when I played in the NFL. I used to go heavy and hard to the body, fucking light dudes
you
up.
had a huge advantage because he who wins the battle of the hands at the line of scrimmage and he who moves the feet at the line of scrimmage is going to win the battle.
Well, these things are fast.
Yes.
So I developed these over a lifetime, and it was I remember it was Strahan when we were at a bar in New York City, and Stray's like, whenever the game report comes up and we do our, obviously, come to work, we come in Mondays, have Tuesdays, and then they do an install. He's like, they'd always circle your picture and be like, dude, don't fuck with this guy's hands. You got to get him off. If he gets his hands on you, he's going to fucking hurt you.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was because of the speed bag and all the focus and all the shit we did. Fast hands.
And the bone transmission of force.
Well, and
so if you know how to land where you're hitting the guy with the floor,
so
then you can jack a guy and it works.
even worse, you'll laugh about, we used to take a lot of road trips when we were kids. And so we had a 4-door car. My brothers and I would sit on the back seat, and I couldn't read, and we didn't have any video games. So we'd either play board games, and then it just basically melted down into us playing Bloody Knuckles or Hot Hands.
Oh,
so
you want to play after the
Let's do it. So we would drive
Hot Hands, baby.
So we lived in LA. My grandmother lived in Canada, so it was 24 hours straight. And my parents, because obviously, everybody was cheap back then. We didn't put. My mom would drive 12, and my dad would drive 12, and we would stop when we get to Vancouver.
Right.
So we would either sleep in the back and my dad didn't like the radio. We didn't listen to the radio, so we had to basically sit out the window. I know it sounds psychotic.
99 bottles of beer on them.
Seriously, like my dad liked classical music, which we didn't want to listen to, so we listened to nothing. And then my parents would obviously flip the fuck out after about 2 hours of us fighting.
Yeah.
So then they would try to beat the shit out of us, pull over the car, and so you just sit there and look out the window, or we would play hot hands, but we could make too much noise. So then you would just sit there and fucking grit your teeth as the person was just drilling you. So we go hot hands, bloody knuckles, and go back and forth.
Yep.
And I think that those car rides, the boxing, the speed bag, all the shit that we did, developed an incredibly fucking set of fast hands.
Well, and also that the hands are so neurologically rich, just in terms of connection to the brain, motor sensory cortices. So if you're good with your hands, it can actually help you think faster. Yeah. And, oftentimes you'll articulate with your hands.
I speak with my hands all the time.
Right? And if you write something down in sort of cursive, it's a certain type of thought. If you're keying it in with 9 fingers, that's another. So the hands have and that's again why the rope is such a valuable modality.
I like the
overhands. The reciprocating figure eights, and just that harmony, that right nose left, left nose right. And it was the game changer for me. And actually, before I discovered the rope, I was doing it with the staff.
Well, wait, how did the rope come in? I mean, there's kind of a big gap in this, right? Like, okay, so you create the BOSU ball.
Yeah,
Ball.
I'll bridge it from BOSU ball to rope. Okay. All right, so BOSU ball, right? I'm selling it to promote it. I'm making them. They take me 6 hours to build, and I'm selling it, but I'm not making money. So there's value. I'm not giving it to you. I'm selling it to you, but I'm selling it at less than the cost to make.
Sure.
First sale, U.S. ski team. I sell 2 of them. They ask for 24 more, so I have 26 units in the marketplace. Australian Institute of Sport hears about it. They order 4 of them. Okay, ship 4 to Australia. Now, I go to the Lakers, I go to the Yankees, I go to the Devils, and I go to the Ravens and Rams because, so they were the respective championship teams in their respective Big 4 sports, okay? And then also because my favorite team was the Knicks, they were first on the list, so I meet Greg Brittenham, New York Knicks. He's a strength coach. Mm-hmm. He's progressive in the sense that he's, always looking for advantage. He buys 2 BOSU balls from me. I get a call from him 2 weeks later. He says, hey, I need 2 more. And so, I'm going to personally drive them up to you. I'm not going to ship them. So we get to meet, sort of trade notes, see exactly what you're doing with it, right? So now Greg Brittenham, we spend the afternoon together, fantastic meeting. He goes, you need to meet my father, Dean Brittenham. He's out in San Diego at the Shiley High Performance Training. The Knicks fly out there every year. He's working with, NFL, sprinters, Olympics, So my father and I went, we flew there to San Diego for a full week, stayed right on the Torrey Pines golf course and just walked to Dean's, studio clinic every morning. Dean was into whole brain ambidexterity, so that was one of the fundamentals that he taught, because he wanted you to be able to process information and assimilate it quickly, because he was interested in the global overall athleticism more than just strength measures, okay? So what he did was he was the one who inspired me to take the name BOSU that was originated from both sides up to BOSU, both sides utilized. So suddenly I learned how to juggle, anything where I could get the right and the left brains and crossing the midline. And there's the problem with functional people.
I juggle.
Okay, right.
No, I did. I've learned to juggle for years, and it was always one of my
Right. So and it's good for your brain. And here's the difference.
Well, the different patterns if you go through.
Exactly. 4 balls. 4 balls changing. Three over.
And you can kind of throw.
It's just progression. Yeah. That's all it is. It's a steep learning curve. You're starting a race, and there's a 10-foot wall in front of you. Right? So, you stand next to a bed so you don't walk forward. That's a classic mistake that you make. And then you drop it. You don't have to bend over to pick it up. These are little secrets if you want to learn how to juggle efficiently. So I basically was full on okay, I believe in this because I'm smart and I was interested in speed reading, and I got extremely proficient at speed reading.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
So when I hurt my knee, I ruptured my ACL in 99, my rookie year, and ended up with a skateboard that's on like a kind of a big kind of circular thing. I forgot what it was called.
The endo board.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I had an endo
Right.
board, and I would stand on the endo board and play video games and juggle.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would go back and forth and do this whole deal for my knee rehab.
Right.
But I got to the point where I could just stand on it.
Yes, just flat.
And stand up and play video games, juggle, talk on the phone, do
Drink
whatever.
your coffee.
Yeah, everything was standing on this thing.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point where I thought, this is fucking useless. Right? Because if like you either
You've
have
mastered the challenge.
Yeah. And so it became skill acquisition once I acquired the skill.
Right.
It's kind of like
now you have the muscle memory of the skill, and now you can build further.
I can still do it.
Yes.
If I can, so this is interesting thing with a lot of these different modalities. If I can master them and then go away and not do them for a year and come back and they're still fine.
You mastered it.
The only thing that never got easy was lifting weights. They were always heavy.
Right.
They were always hard.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that these accessory work things are misunderstood. And with regard to the brain balancing, if you take a child who is below some functional threshold, they're the only kid that can't write their name on the board or whatever, you do these integrative exercises, figure eights, crossing midline, and suddenly, abracadabra, the kid can write their name on the board.
Have you ever seen Cal Dietz's goat drill?
I've seen, I'm very familiar, well, not very, but I'm familiar with the triphasic, and I'm familiar with the RPR.
So Cal Dietz, the RPR shit is like voodoo. I use it twice a day, but Cal Dietz has a deal where they're these huge circles.
Okay.
And they go do figure eights while they're watching something, and they move balls basically around the back.
Yes.
And this neurological deal, I'll show it to you. There's a deal where they showed like a hawk, or I think it's an owl, and they're basically moving it and its head's totally fixed.
Yes,
and they move the body.
Yes.
And so this goat drill, he came and we do it.
See, that's what the ropes do for you.
And I do it with the kids.
That's what the ropes do for you. You get to object in motion stays in motion, and a figure eight stays in motion. And if I spiral and I know how I'm traveling more distance in less time, there's more internal. If I reach up as high as I can, that's the end range of motion, but it's not the end range of rotation. The spiral is how you create the maximum fascial integration through the system. Mm-hmm. So, and how do I know this? Is because I had a BOSU ball. Mailbox money, baby. It's like you got all the time in the world. What day is it? It doesn't matter, right? Yeah. And like I told you before, and I'm free. I'm very open with everything. I was an alcohol guy on the East Coast, and I turned into a THC guy on the West Coast. And alcohol beat me up, but it released the beast, and it off-gassed all the pressure I put on myself. And weed, it stimulated me, and it gave me sensation. I could feel everything. You want to juggle real well? But okay, right? Like, for me, that's what it did. But it also took me into psychosis. So it was fire that I cooked with, and it was fire that burns me. I don't do it anymore. And fortunately, I was able to, take the good and survive the bad.
What was the this is like the deepest part of that psychosis? I mean, were you over there counting ceiling tiles and like obsessive compulsive, kind of like brought out that type of stuff? Because you're OCD. You get some OCD tendencies.
I'm one of the most extreme people you'll meet.
So so I look for patterns in everything.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what it is. It could be lights, this. I mean, that's why I did well in football, because I could recognize patterns really quick.
I watch 20 hours of game film each week of my opponent.
And you're probably looking for tendencies, patterns, to the point where the guy gets up and he's wearing different shoes.
Down distance circumstance. Okay, what's the pattern? Okay, that's a waggle, tight end's coming across. I know it. I'm going to pretend to the quarterback I don't know it. I'm going to jump the pass, and I get the interception.
This is why when I told you the story about when I got approached to do CrossFit football and then I had to teach seminars, I didn't necessarily know what I was teaching, but I knew what it should look like. And then all of a sudden, over time, you start looking at these patterns. Why can't any of these people do what I'm asking them to do? Well, it's because their training system is something about bilateral hip hinging and a sagittal plane.
Right.
And we don't know that as athleticism. And now I know components. And then we'd have people come that hadn't done that training system, that had done something more similar to what we were doing. And they could do all this stuff. Right. And then you start kind of segmenting, creating patterns, and you just see over and over and over again. And then you start asking these questions. And next thing you know, you end up with a system to try to make people better versions of themselves.
And I think the real observation to make there is not have the dialectic that it's either or, it's both and. So there is value in the bilateral sagittal exercises. The functional person, their biggest critique against them is they now suddenly hate strength and barbells suck and blah, blah. I can touch my toes, big deal. The guy who can bench press 400 pounds is going to flatten you.
Well, why? I mean,
and then it's the converse because the strong guy now says, "Oh, well, I'm functional. That's all."
But you should be able to do everything.
Correct.
Right? Like, I mean, I want
to be able to funnel that strength into the intended specific task and use it, and stronger is better.
So, at the seminar, I used to tell this story. One day during practice, I think it was like on it would have been we weren't in pads, so it was I think it was a Friday. Maybe a Thursday or Friday. They brought in some new dude, and they used to bring in guys all the time. So, hey, they're going to give this guy a tryout. They signed him. Who knows if he's going to stay. They bring this dude in. I go in the weight room. The dude's benching like close to 600 pounds for reps, like 585.
Okay.
Right. Big, strong dude, huge chest, look like fucking Tarzan. We go out on the field, defensive lineman. All of a sudden, we're in basically helmets and little foamies and shorts and deal. Yeah. We come off the ball and he fucking literally gets down, fires off, and fucking hits me square in the head. And we don't, it's basically a fit. Like, we're not going full speed.
Right.
And I'm like, this motherfucker, like, all of a sudden I call the dude up. I fucking tape my hands up. We get down in my stance. I come off the ball, fucking drive this dude as hard as I can, hand underneath his fucking chin, reach, extend, and fucking tea kettle him. And as he's going down, put my shoulder on him, bounce off his fucking head and steamed over.
There you go.
And all of a sudden it's fucking live bullets.
Bingo.
And dude, we just started fucking killing this dude. They cut him mid-practice.
Oh, because it's like, oh, dude, they're wiping you up.
Well, so here's the thing. They were like, first of all, you don't know the speed.
Yes,
and these guys are absolutely fucking, you're going to get yourself hurt. They cut him mid fucking practice. They knocked on him and he walked off.
He who owns the center owns the win. If I'm super strong out here and I'm so massed up that I can't get inside, the guy on the inside is going to own me.
We call it stiff. So in the NFL, if you ever hear me and the guys that work with me heard this, if a guy is stiff, that's akin to dead. Like, hey, that guy's a stiff. He's stiff as fuck.
Right.
That is by far.
You hit him here, and it hits everything.
And he's stiff. So you want somebody that's mobile, that's flexible, that can effectively generate force. If you're stiff, you can't move through space.
Correct.
And you're stiff, and
you can be strong, but you can't be powerful.
Yeah. And to be powerful, I'd always define power, and the reason it's power athlete is your ability to display your strength dynamically is what I understand power to be.
Yeah, fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can display your strength dynamically, you're powerful.
Correct.
Strong is strong, but it can be stiff.
Correct.
Power is rarely stiff. It's rigid and task-specific tension.
It's pressurization. So it's not rigidity as much as it is accurate and correct pressurization.
Think about a coil, like a snake.
Yes.
And then when it strikes, task-specific, and then it fucking hits. Same thing on a punch. When you watch those boxers be able to move, and then all of a sudden as they hit, once they make that connection, they fucking load everything they have into these hits.
Pressurization at the appropriate time, longitudinal bone axis rooted to the ground.
Yeah,
that's how you knock someone out.
Task-specific tension.
That's right. You break a rib by boom.
Or fucking splitting their fucking liver with a fucking left liver punch.
Chop that liver.
Yeah. Dude, if you ever been punched in the liver, it's fucking something else.
Yeah, well, I like to also puncture the spleen. Daffy Duck on the jaw.
Probably the most punishing individual I've ever seen for fucking up livers is Boss Rutan.
Oh, yeah.
The king of pancreas. So Harry Shaw, who's a good friend, one of our coaches, is buddies with Boss, and he'll constantly forward me these, the old king of pancreas stuff. And dude, he would open hand slap people in the liver, and you hear the slap and you see the look on these dudes' faces. He also had this nasty corkscrew kick where he'd kind of bring it over and it would go straight to the front.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
Totally fools them.
I mean, combat, whether it be football, the way that it was played. I mean, the football today is, I realized that they had to change the game after Junior Seau and the guys. Right. Yes. Like when people start killing themselves and saying, hey, look at my brain, you have to change.
Yes.
But it's hard to watch remembering how much fun it was and the violence and the way we played the game. To see it today, it just isn't the same.
It's hard for me to see a hit that used to be cheered that is clean but hard be a 15-yard penalty.
And then all of a sudden, it's not the 15-yard penalty. It's the fact that dude's going to get fined 50 G's when he shows up.
And it's also the touchdown is now brought back because you've changed the outcome of the game. There was not that bloodlust, thirst, satisfaction. And is this football? Like that, if you come from that era.
Yeah. I wrestle with that all the time. And
Yeah,
I tell people that it had to change.
It had to.
But I'm glad that I got to play in the era I did, which was fucking put your hand in the deal. I mean, Kevin Turner, who was our fullback at the Eagles, ended up dying of ALS, and it was fucking awful. And I remember him as a fullback coming through the hole and hitting, like, it sounded like a fucking shotgun going off. God. Him and Timmy Houck fucking head to head. And people talked about what a fucking warrior he was. And then all of a sudden he passed us from ALS. So, I mean, it had to change. But a little piece of me dies when I watch these games, and it just looks like patty cake.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm the guy yelling at the TV, put flags on these guys.
Yeah, well, they don't use their head. They don't come in. And if they hit with their heads, then they get this.
But there are hits with the shoulder that are clean, that are penalties. And that's the part that I don't like.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It really bothers me, actually.
Okay.
All right.
So,
so getting back to the ropes.
No, I mean, dude, I'm terrible for going off a deal. And
I'm
I know
a
you're
tangential guy, man. We'll get there.
But
all right,
the thing is when you're ADD enough, everything makes sense because we go back to it. So obviously, all right.
So if you're following at home, so I meet Dean Brittingham, I get this sort of fundamental shift in thinking to my fundamental training philosophy of life. It's Taoism. It's yin and yang. It's both sides utilized, polar opposites. Okay, that's what it is. Right, left, up, down, hard, soft, fast, slow, all that stuff. Now, I discover the staff. Okay, so I get a broom handle. As a personal trainer, I skated around New York City. I had a broom handle taped up with athletic tape and a yoga mat wrapped around it, a bag of towels, some rubber bands. I would train people in their homes. So I had appreciation for the stick. So I went to Home Depot, got a broom handle, and I started using that staff. And I knew a guy who was very high-level martial arts, and doing different roles and patterns with the staff. And I recognized immediately that, sticky hands is stick and stick. So the water crashes and then it disappears. The stick hits like a stick and then it sticks to maintain the contact, the sensation, and the feel. So I was now getting the subtlety of the flow of the figure eights with the stick that will always tell the truth, but then I was also able to cut and hit the stick. So I was able to bone up my forearms and coordinate my hands. So I spent 2 years doing that, just baking all day long, rolling a stick, right? Listening to music. And
what'd you listen to?
Oh God, it would change all the time. I had, a little iPod mini thing. Mm-hmm. My favorite stuff always comes back to, I guess, classic rock and roll. Yeah. I mean, that's my favorite stuff. But, when Eminem came on, I mean, it was just okay.
I see you wearing the Wu-Tang Clan hat.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Sound the horns. I mean, I have playlists that are just the same song. Like Sound the Horns, I have a playlist that is Sound the Horns, and then you put it on repeat, like as long as I'm going to listen. And I have same song-itis, and so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
The guys at the gym make me wear headphones because I will play the same. If I want to deadlift the heaviest, it's a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, okay, put it on. I'm going to lift more weight than if it's not on. So it's just, it's that obsessive thing. And I recognize that about myself. So when Eminem came on, and you want to talk about getting with the beat and stuff, right? So what happened was 2004, I'm 34 years old. I'm in New York City at a conference presenting on a device that we call the ballast ball. It's a stability ball with a ballasting load in it that gives you certain advantages. I'm presenting on that at a conference. Buddy Lee is there, one of the world's best jump ropers, Olympic wrestler, Marine, a real American hero.
Fucking wizard with the jump rope.
Yeah, it's just...
it's
so
insane.
He's there teaching the jump rope, and our booths are literally caddy corner. And I had created a new device that I called the Quick Hands Bullet Trainer. It was two rubber balls connected by an elastic cord. And it's a cat toy that makes you wicked coordinated. I could snap that out at 110 miles an hour and catch it right here. The reason I'm not afraid of a punch is because I've had 110 miles an hour coming out and back, and I'm strategically catching it right here. So, if you're doing this to punches versus like cutting in on punch, you're going to do better cutting in, but It's not your instinct. So this toy, I loved it, and I'd swing it around and catch it and stuff. So I showed that to Buddy. It's very skill dependent. It's going to take you a long time to get it, and it won't get you in shape the way a jump rope will. So, very few people are going to opt for it. So I stopped selling it. But he then gave me one of his ropes. And I watched him perform. He gave me the metal one, right? The speed one.
Yeah, the speed.
Not the trick one, the speed
The one
one.
that has the bearings that are almost like fishing deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he gave me one of his ropes. And what I did was I made the observation that there's a lot of revolutions with that rope where he's not going through it, it's going around him.
Yeah.
And I had jump rope in high school when I cared about my 40-yard dash and my vertical leap. And the more I jumped rope, the slower I got and the less I could jump because of that low oscillation, multiple reps. You do it for half an hour, you're pounding the power out of you, and now you can float like a butterfly in a boxing ring, but you're not jumping up, dunking a volleyball, which is what I could do. So I knew that I didn't want to beat myself up, and the backyard that I had in San Diego was like a cement slab, which is not sprung wood is what you want to jump on.
Sure.
Right. So I knew that, okay, I want to get just as good as Buddy Lee, an unrealistic goal that is a good goal to set because as you get there, you'll always have further to go. You're never going to run out.
Did you wear the American flag pants and the whole outfit?
Bandana.
When you see Buddy Lee's outfit,
I know,
was the fucking best.
Oh, I know.
And then the crazy part is the blonde chick that he had with him. I don't know if it was like what her role was, but she was incredible.
Everybody around him gets good.
It was fucking amazing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So what I did was the plane is landing in San Diego at 10:30 at night. I am home by 11:15 at night. And I'm like, okay, 30 days, I'm doing the ropes, I'm all in, and I am not allowed to jump through it. Anytime I had a temptation to jump through it, I would just heel hook it. Like put your foot flat and slap it down and don't jump. Right? So what happened was going around my body with the rope, what happens is just the fact that you are who you are in terms of 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and a core, it attenuates certain fundamental patterns. There's an overhand pattern, an underhand pattern. Overhand is the thumbs lead to figure 8. Underhand is the pinkies lead to figure 8, and that's north and south. And then east and west is the opposite. So one hand's going thumb over figure 8, and the other hand's going pinky figure 8. So you're getting this cross-lateralization, and east is just fundamentally opposite as west. So you're developing this cardinal coordination where you understand north, south, east, and west implicitly. You know 90-degree angles in your muscle memory. And then the fourth maneuver is called a sneak, where what you're doing is you're wrapping the hand behind your back with this pronated spiraling movement to now whip it out like this. So you get this boom. And there's an underhand version of that and an overhand version of that. And that's all there is from the fundamentals of this practice. And I did it, and I recognized immediately that, oh my, this is even better than a stick, because you'll tend to embody the qualities of the instrument that you train with. And a rope is fluid, and it's continuous. And if you think of a can with a wire to another tin can, you can hear what's going through it. Now, non-dominant side gets to borrow the intelligence and then repeat and reciprocate the dominant role. And even more important is the dominant role learns how to be non-dominant. When somebody throws with the non-dominant hand, the reason why it looks so bad is because the dominant hand is not doing what the non-dominant hand must do to set up the dominant hand. So all the focus goes to non-dominant, and now you're not putting the other arm out and creating that, the reciprocal movement of what the non-dominant does. Even writing on paper, the non-dominant hand positions the paper and puts it where it has to be, and the dominant does it. And if you go to try with your other hand, you might not even realize that, oh, my dominant's got to...
Yeah. Well, what you do is you basically position the paper.
Yes, you position the paper and set it up for it's a knife and it's a fork.
Yeah.
Right. So this is, and there's a lot of runners who are handed. Usain Bolt runs handed. His right foot is the power. His left foot's the quick. Tyson Gay, left foot power, right foot quick. And if you understand the internal external torsion rather than just thinking of his flexion extension, now you understand that spiral essence, and his left elbow will come in closer to center line, the forearm will angle out, and that creates an external torsion, which is a power stroke. And then on the left hand, the elbow doesn't come in like that. It stays slightly out further, and that's the internal torsion. So Barry Sanders, he galloped.
Yeah.
Picture a football in his arm. It's bum, 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 bum. So he's external torsion, internal torsion. External is that drive and that power. Internal is that quick and get back to the other side. Carl Lewis would migrate all the way to the right side of the lane because he was left foot power, right foot quick. So he was right foot power, left foot quick. And so what would happen, he was right foot power. And what would happen is he would land slightly with the head on the inside of the left foot, and that would angle him back to the right to get back to power. So when he long jumped, he would hit that right foot. Bob Beamon, you can see the way that he shifts into his power foot, and it's always launching head over foot, because if you take a freeze frame of gait at that maximum load position, a fast sprinter, the knees are across at the maximum load. So you're on the front side, fundamental, and the head is over the foot if you're going straight. And to the extent it's not, there is some degree of compensatory tension, because if you freeze the frame, it has to be sustainable to create the best delivery and then reception of the force. And this is just, I have studied more film than in terms of biomechanics than I would bet any person on earth. And I was doing it back when it wasn't easy, when it was a VHS tape, right? When it was 16 millimeter black and white.
Yeah.
That's when I was studying film, when the thing would break and I could fix it faster than the coaches, except for the head coach, because he watched film like I did. And I was mentored under him. So if you break down the footage, the eye in the sky does not lie unless it's reality TV and it's been scripted.
Well, that's what they used to say. The eye in the sky don't lie.
Listen, my greatest fear and anxiety in college was Sunday morning in films if I had messed up a play. And one of my greatest joys is, I ran an 88-yard touchdown back on an interception. Okay, I get to relax during this film session.
Yeah, or at least that play.
Right. Yeah, you'll find some critique.
Yeah.
But because I was good at X's and O's, I didn't make a lot of mistakes. Because I knew how it's the speed at which you can compute that makes Tom Brady the greatest.
Yeah.
Right? It's just computational speed.
Or the fact that he had just seen more looks and
which is hence faster computational speed.
Yeah, I mean, it's these people on the podcast are going to probably be like, the samurai thing again. But they had a deal where they asked the oldest sword makers in Japan to sharpen a samurai sword, and they used a laser to try to sharpen it and to see which one was sharper. And the human eye and those guys were able to sharpen a sword sharper than any laser could ever sharpen the deal. I mean, the fact that because they had opportunity, this is what they've done.
Yes.
There was technique. I mean, all these things go into it, and the human computer is, maybe today with AI and all the advancements, maybe, but through eternity, I mean, this has been the most efficient computer.
And there's a genetic carryover component to that, because there's a genotype and a phenotype. And I think, if you do that enough and enough and enough and enough, I think there's a generational intelligence. Exactly.
I mean,
Floyd Mayweather's the best boxer because he had the genetics, but he also had the nurture.
Well, I'll just give you an example. When we first moved in here, we were overrun with pigs, and I shot a pig every couple of days for months.
Oh, geez.
So I killed.
That's got to be scary with kids, too.
No, I just pop out the backyard suppressors and I would shoot. I mean, at the time there was but there was no.
These are the feral hogs that they take helicopters and kill.
we killed a ton of them.
Okay, got it.
To the point where I didn't even take pictures anymore. In the first couple, we were to the point where I just didn't even bring my phone. I just drag them out and throw them in the neighbors up in this area in the pasture I call the altar, which everything showed up to eat them. But what ended up happening was the pigs just stopped coming.
Oh, yeah. The 100 monkeys effect. Oh.
So we killed so many that they will not.
They can smell it.
They will not come on our side of the fence. Right. So when I walk on my neighbor's side, I see all the hog damage in this. They won't come on this side of the fence. And if they do come, they only come one little path. They'll drink water and they go back. But
right.
I mean, it's been
You've
9 months.
You've marked your territory.
Well, but they have, I mean.
They're intelligent,
but there's
in that sense.
But I've killed enough, but there's been so many generations because they breed every 6 weeks. Right?
Oh, God. Well, that's why they're running amok.
But the crazy part is I haven't seen any in months. Or, I mean, it's probably been a year since we've seen a pig.
Yeah.
But when, so they
Daddy doesn't go over there.
But they have some historical genetic thing that every time they come over, and no pig alive right now would have known those pigs Because,
Well, if you imported some pigs from another part of Texas, are they going to come here until they don't come here?
Yeah. So I think that there's some genetic aspect for it.
I think there is.
But
I think there
it's
is.
because they're absorbed. They're around him. I mean, think about Floyd Mayweather with his dad and his uncle.
Come on.
I mean, he was
and
raised
his
in
other
it.
uncle too.
Yeah, and he was raised in it.
Yes.
I mean, to watch him, and did you know Floyd fought yesterday and nobody even knew about it? Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
I saw it this morning because they stopped the fight. He basically the guy was tying him up too much, and I forgot the name of his the ref that basically refs all of his stuff. Stopped the fight, and there was a huge fucking melee. But I didn't even know Floyd was fighting.
Right.
Yeah, I mean on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
It was super weird. But I mean, I love watching his training stuff. Not only can he jump rope, but when he hits his jab, it's like a fucking cement, like somebody's cracking cement with a fucking
his overhand right to fade follow on your jab is such a honed weapon. And I think the philosophy that I want is hair of the chinny chin, right? Talk about pigs. Is if you hit me with your punch, but you only hit the hair on my chin, that's exactly where I want your range to be because you're close. You touch me, but you didn't hit me. And that gives me the range to now hit you before you can react.
That's Conor McGregor. I mean, he practiced that punch where he slipped and then would come back.
Exactly. Fade follow, right?
Yeah.
Now, Conor McGregor, back when the mystique was there, another reason I think he had that ability to do that is because he had such internal rotation that this is sort of safe space here. If I can protract my shoulders and roll them over so far, now I got all this extra space. And if I'm like the guy who doesn't know how to fight, he plays football and he doesn't know how to fight. He's like coming at you,
back on the shoulder blades,
pushing his chest out. You want to fight? No, I don't think you know how to fight.
Well, he's creating artificial distance.
Yes.
So he's rolling his shoulders.
Well, no, it's not artificial distance. It's real distance.
Well, it is.
And I know what you mean.
But like, he's here, so he's giving himself the impression. It's kind of like the lat spread, which I joke is like Shandi's walk. Have you ever seen Shanji walk? He walks with imaginary lat syndrome, so he can he can take up more distance. And so we always like kind of do the Shanji walk with the and he gets the big flaring lat like the cobra.
Yeah.
But you think McGregor will ever make it back?
No,
I don't think so either.
No, the mystique is gone.
Yeah.
Once the mystique is gone, people they just have a different attitude towards you.
Power Athlete Nation, this episode is brought to you by 8 Sleep. Summer's in full effect, and it's hot here in Texas. The only place that could be hotter is in bed with me, but the pod cover from 8 Sleep allows me to sleep cool, all the way down to 55 degrees, which I need every single degree for a restful sleep. Now, 2 killer features that I like is it's a split zone, so I can sleep at 55 degrees, and my wife can sleep at a slightly warmer temperature. Over the course of the night, the bed cover actually gets warmer, so when you hit REM sleep and deep sleep, it's able to elevate temperature, and then when it's time to get up, it gets nice and warm. It pops you right out of bed without some annoying alarm. The other feature is it's a pod cover, which means that it fits over the bed. Anybody that's been in a relationship or has a significant other knows that bed shopping requires 2 people to sign off. We have a bed we like, and the pod cover fit right on top. And then for those of you guys in the performance crowd, they have a bitchin' system that tracks HRV, how long you were asleep, how long you were awake, how many times you rolled over, how many breaths, a whole bunch of information for you to fine tune. And that gets delivered to you each morning in a little report, and they have an app to manage it. I'm sold on the 8 Sleep. I think it's a great system, and I think you should check it out too. Yeah.
And it's just if I truly believe that I'm going to kick your ass, I'm a worse opponent than if I'm like got this sort of like apprehension of like, oh my God, he's kind of look what he did to the last guy.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, he lost the mystique, and Lennox Lewis was sending straight jabs in that punch, and Mike bobs underneath, and by the 3rd or 4th round, Lennox Lewis started rounding his jabs, and Mike was going into every single one of them, and I remember watching the fight getting just so angry that it was like, oh God, if this had been when Mike was in his prime, Lewis would not have a chance.
Well, I mean, Buster Douglas. I mean, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, shocks the world. His mom dies. The whole deal.
There was a long count in that fight.
Yep.
And I think there was a lot of money made on that fight. There was a long count. That fight was over.
Think about it.
Just like Deontay Wilder.
You think somebody bet?
I think that boxing is boxing.
And it's always going to be shady as fuck.
I think that it is prize fighting. And I think the guys running it are getting the biggest prize.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That's God's honest what I think.
Well, like when Deontay Wilder knocked down Big
It was
Gypsy.
a long count. That fight was over.
Dude, he hit him harder than anybody's ever been hit.
Yeah, and the Gypsy King, that was literally like some kind of movie thing.
Dude, he fucking was out.
He was completely, and then boom, he's
Pops
up. I think he said like some angel came and just said, "Wake up!"
Those fucking gypsies are tough as fucking coffee. I mean,
he's conjuring up some kind of weird witchcraft.
Brad Pitt, what was it in Snatch, where he's like, these pikers, they're fucking harder than coffin nails. So we've used that line forever, like harder than coffin nails. But man, so Tyson Fury, I'm a fan, but the bad body just kills me because I'm so used to, like Hagler and Hearns and
I'm
Sugar
much more
Ray.
forgiving of that today than I once was.
Well,
Warren Sapp, you forgive him?
No, because he's always was fat.
Okay, so it's okay.
No, well,
so it was never okay.
It was never okay.
Okay, got it.
But in boxing, the physique and seeing those guys, like seeing Hagler and Hearns
right.
and Sugar Ray and Tyson and these guys. I mean, they just
Evander Holyfield.
They looked the fucking part.
What are your thoughts on George Foreman?
Young George Foreman
was
an absolute stallion.
Yes,
they bring him back at 40 and he does the crap.
Was Muhammad Ali too smooth for you or no?
Oh, God, who doesn't love Muhammad Ali?
Okay, got it.
Oh, I mean,
all right, so his physique is within.
Yeah, but I mean, he was, he didn't, you could tell Muhammad Ali wasn't, pounding the weights in this.
Yeah, no, he was
But you
not.
see Holyfield come out. I mean, Holyfield could have, with a little bit of prep gone and won a bodybuilding contest.
Correct.
Looked fucking great. But that's what I'm used to seeing for boxers.
Yes, right.
And then you see him come out.
Tyson Fury's got that little flat tire that sort of jiggles.
But he's
think about it. He's taller than you are.
He's 6'9".
He's taller than you are. He's, weight matters in boxing so much. And he's twitchy with that and jitter.
He has the shoulder move.
It's just the fluidity with the twitch. So you never know when the punch is coming because it's like, is it now? Is it now? Is it now?
He has such good, he has such reach. And he's so tall. And
he's a gypsy who knows how to shift the glove and break your face with his knuckles.
And
I think now.
And his dad was a boxer. He comes from a lineage of boxers.
His mom was probably a boxer.
Well, I mean, they talk about the lineage and this and his history and the whole deal. Like, I'm a fan. I love the shit talking.
Listen,
I just wish we could just fucking diet him a little bit so he just looked a little bit better.
Got it. Well, the irony is it probably make him worse.
Well, he does have incredible shoulder roll. I mean, he's able to roll the punches.
If you watch that man run, he has impeccable running technique because it's head over foot with a double down connective tissue pulse to get off the ground. Because if you are not in shape to the extent that he is and you're going to run like a boxer, well, then the only chance you have is efficiency.
He goes and has a huge fight, and then he's up on stage with Steve Aoki at a fucking concert or at a show in Vegas with his shirt off. As a younger
man, he'd put on 100 pounds of depression and ice cream, and
he was 430 pounds or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a remarkable story. I think the reality is that his size is truly what makes him most special. So across eras, Jack Dempsey, 188 pounds. Like, I don't care what you do. You could be 10 times better at boxing. Tyson Fury's going to beat you.
But I mean, what was Tyson? 220? 213, 218 pounds. Yeah. I mean, and what's he, 5'9", maybe?
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
Tyson Fury, you just can't even get on the inside.
Seeing form.
The Klitschko's, the boring era of boxing.
I fucking hate the Klitschko's.
I mean, Jesus, point the guy out and the glass chin when he ever got in, but when'd you get in?
Such a boring fight. I mean, it was the death of heavyweight boxing.
And if heavyweight boxing is dead, it takes a toll on all of boxing.
Yeah, I mean,
all of boxing.
Yeah.
That's just what happens.
No, but now we're in this exciting era with Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, who looks like $1 million, looks incredible. I mean, looks like a bodybuilder, speaks well, everything.
Yes. I think that's the problem. He speaks too well.
Yeah, I mean, but
he probably he has alternatives where they're you know what I mean. Like if he had no alternatives, he probably.
Yeah, if you have nowhere else to go,
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have that Irish drive back when his need not apply.
I mean, but I'd still love to see a fight with him and Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
And for some reason, these guys are shucking and jiving, and they want to, the one guy that beat Joshua.
Usyk.
Yeah. And they're trying to put this.
Well, Usyk is like the smallest of the bunch, but he's arguably the best boxer of the bunch. So it's like him against Fury would sort of be,
David and Goliath. I mean, what's he?
Yeah,
5'9"?
but he doesn't have a sling.
But I mean, he's what, 5'9", 5'10"?
Yeah, he's not big. Just think Tyson Fury weight. Boxing gloves, you can hit cinder block wall with a boxing glove at full force.
Well,
there's no penetrating power in a boxing glove.
That's why people always think
needs claws, you're going to fight the big dog.
But people always think like, oh, the UFC with these thin. If anything, the thin gloves are way worse, or are better or worse, however you look at it.
Yeah,
but
the sharper the weapon, the better the small man has a chance.
Getting hit with a 16-ounce glove.
It's a lot of just
oh my God.
Boom, it's a thud. And that's why the weight behind that matters.
Well, and you think about the distance, him coming down, longer arm.
Tank Davis had a rehydration clause for the Ryan Garcia fight because if you weigh an extra 8 to 12 pounds, I can impose myself upon you in boxing.
Yep.
If you and me were to box, you would just lean into me and knock me out.
Yeah.
Now, if we were to scrap, I'm going to claw you and bite you so I have a chance.
Sure.
Sharp weapons.
Yeah. No, it's I've forever been a boxing fan. I mean, it doesn't matter.
I love it.
I like watching the little guys. I like watching the big guys. I love watching Canelo.
The sweet science. The fact that it's a 10 of 4 punches and styles make fights.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful interview with Cus D'Amato and Muhammad Ali. When Cus starts throwing some punches,
I know exactly what it is. Yeah.
And he does that like old school tuck jab, sideways, that Champ Thomas jab.
Yeah.
It's like, and the hip, and Ali, you either got to come over the top on that, or you got to get the left hook on that if he's throwing a left jab. But I think that's a really effective punch. If you that one where I'm here and I'm gonna bend over sideways over here, and now I'm going long and turning over the jab, and you can get it up to the face, you can get it in the body, and you can sort of fake it.
You think I'm sure you do, that the carryover for what you're teaching with the idea of boxing in terms of cross-potting,
huge.
I mean, just a neurological.
Huge. I've studied self-defense, via many teachers, but it's always my own assimilation of funneling it into my capacity. Suits my style, right? And I'm very bony and I'm very sharp, and I've conditioned these so that I can hit very, very hard and not hurt myself.
Yeah.
So you can see even just
look at my knuckles.
The knuckles.
Yeah, I got the same.
I put the core fist in your hand yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned how to create a skeletal circuit where it's ridiculous structural strength.
Yeah.
And I've literally hit wood like that doesn't hurt. Right. Well, so I studied jujitsu now for 11 months because I'm on the ground. I fish out of water.
Do you like jujitsu?
I love it now. I love it because it's a chess match. And in the beginning, my first month, Salo says survive.
Yeah.
So I put myself.
The white belt is the belt of survival.
Well.
That's what Salo said in his book.
Yes, exactly. Well, again, that you had 5-a-day practices where you smashed heads all day. I think there's a smarter way to do it. And back in that day, the white belt didn't have the privilege of rolling with the black belt.
Yeah.
You were sort of sequestered off, took you a lot more time. Now it's very generous. Everybody's sharing the information. And my first month of jiu-jitsu, what I did was I was like, all right, I want to see how tough I am. And like an arm bar, I'll tap immediately because that's damage.
Yeah.
But choking, all right, well, I'll fall asleep. You wake me up.
Yeah.
So I'm able to come very much closer to the line. And I've practiced like postures and sounds. Like if you say the word I Ching, that glottal stop and the smile, I can breathe through my nose better. I look like this evil Joker. But watch this. You see this right here?
I think it's the glasses. I think it's
all the better to see you with. So check this out. Ready? So I've learned how to protect my air and blood, and I use imagination, I use blah, blah, blah. But I'm very difficult to choke in jiu-jitsu just because I've trained this for a long time. And so Ribeiro Jiu-Jitsu, it is such a wonderful familial and friendly, like there's no assholes in the class.
No, they if there's assholes, they roll out real quick.
Yeah, exactly. The asshole just gets discarded out. They don't matriculate in. So everybody's there for the right reasons. And the professor of the school that I go to, in addition to the black belts that I train with, he just meets you wherever you are.
Who's the professor?
His name is Julio.
Julio.
Yeah, and he rolls every round. And if you have to sit out because there's too many people, you get to pick.
Yeah.
So you basically, get to roll with the professor. How generous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of professors probably, okay, roll with my number one guy, right? You're not going to reveal me.
Dude,
right?
There's been many times where, I've been odd man out and, Philippe or, hey, coach, come, or Victor or any of the guys or Shanji. I mean, always very generous.
So generous.
Yeah.
So generous. It's just the way that they do it because of the Six Blades family.
Yeah. So that's why I always say, like the family, our family, because it really is.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. And
that's part of the Six Blade Mafia.
Well, I feel very honored and privileged to have tapped into with profound relationships with Source, with Salo and Shanji, to have a mutual respect because they recognize the contributions that I'm making and, in a different realm, but it's underneath, right? So they have the expert. I was able to teach Shanji something that made him better. And so he's very grateful for that. And I am extremely grateful for the exchange.
Yeah.
Right. So you talk about validation.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm rolling in the very first month and I'm doing everything I can because I'm going to get choked. I don't know what I'm doing.
It's part of the deal.
Right. But I'm going to do everything I can to last as long as I possibly can. So I'm rolling with Julio. And I want to preface this story with, if he wanted to tap me, he could have tapped me. Okay, so I'm starting out the story like that. But he meets me where I am and he gradually turns it up because what he does is during the 6 minutes, he will tap everyone that he rolls with just to, but he goes slow. So you get to figure out your way, right? So he's trying to make you better.
Sure.
And so he gets me in a body wrap around my ribs with his legs and a choke behind the neck. So he's behind me, squeezing my ribs and digging in for the choke. And we're about 4 minutes in and the thing's going to 6 minutes. And he just kept applying the pressure. And I was tailing in, and my objective in my mind's eye is my friends are going to be here in 2 minutes. I need to be alive when they get here. And I dislocated a rib and I couldn't sleep right for 3 weeks because of the nerve pinch in my neck. But 6 minutes ended and I said to him, I just smiled. They said, just in time for my friends to get here.
Yeah. It lasted just long enough.
Yeah, exactly. So that was sort of the trial by fire, stupid thing to do, but I had to do it.
Yeah.
So now what I do in jiu-jitsu is I always telling myself, okay, don't use your strength. Don't use your athleticism. It's okay to tap. It's okay to tap. So really try to get good at the art and don't hijack your learning curve. Tai Chi, Chang Man Chin had an expression, invest in loss, because a loss is a learn.
Yeah.
So if you insist upon not losing, you're going to lose anyway, but you're going to fight and scream and kick and be rigid and stiff.
Yeah.
So it's better to be fluid. And Leo Santos, I train with him privately, and the profundity of the movement. So he's like, it's not the moves, it's the movement. And his ability is so incredibly high and he's huge. And just touching that, there's an osmotic feel where I do so much better, so much more rapidly when I go and fight a blue belt, purple belt, brown belt. I'm able to present problems because I'm getting transmission from Leo. And if you don't know what orange juice tastes like, all the words in the world will not convey what it tastes like. You have to take a sip.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't know. Feeling is knowing, and that's how that transmission is had. And NFL, right? I mean, if at first you don't succeed, get smart and try again, right? So I'm sure that there were times when you were like, Jesus, I didn't like that. And then you went to the well with your brain and you said, how am I going to defeat that thing that's new to me?
Yeah, the one thing that I struggled with in the NFL was the way they were teaching technique didn't make sense to me. So they were, hey, this is how we do this. And they're showing me film of a 6'8", 350-pound black dude. And I'm like, you got any like 6'5", 300-pound white dudes? Like, show me somebody similar to me. How are they solving these problems?
Styles make fights.
So what I didn't like was, when Andy Reid came in, hey, I came from Green Bay. This is how, this guy did this, and they jumped and they did, and they basically wanted us to be autistic parrots and just mimic what these idiots had done. Not, and I mean idiots with
well, it's not. You're not going to the first principles fundamentals. You're trying to create a pretty picture and do a movie.
So what they're just trying to do is get us to be autistic parrots and mimic what these guys are doing.
Right.
But these guys had very different skill sets than I had.
Right.
And me looking at it like that isn't how I would solve that problem. And so, we want you to do this. This isn't how I'm going to do it. So what I learned in boxing, 2/3 inside out, always are going to, obviously cut a guy off. I know that if you're here and I need to be 2/3 inside out, this is the set I need.
Well, think about the value of knowing how to cut a guy off.
From doing it in the ring, but also first meaningful touch.
Yes.
So I need to get into a position, 2/3 inside out, first meaningful touch. And, a lot of guys two-hand punch. I would change it up. I would single punch inside, outside. I mean, I would never hit anybody where they would lunge with two hands unless I'd set it up for it.
Right.
So a lot of times, you catch a guy, angle, come back. I mean, all of these things being able to slide in position.
So in a sense, you've factored in the yield aspect without yielding. By the syncopation and the change. So boxing gives you the beat and the ability to cut beats.
And then what football did is with the helmet, you can also use the helmet as a third hand.
Yes.
So then you could almost shoot a hand, shoot a head, and then push back off of it, get your head and get into position.
Yes.
So this constant chess move.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, well, if these guys are solving this problem this way, is it because they're not athletic enough? And they weren't. They were just jump setting everything because they couldn't move in space. So if I jump in close distance, we force a guy to make a decision. He goes outside, and then you give your Brett Favre enough time to throw the ball. Well, we got a guy that's not Brett Favre, and now I'm going to play it in a different way. So when I went in to go play, I played very different than how they wanted, but the success and the way I was able to do it was such that they were like, okay, you figured out your own technique and you're successful. And at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding if you're able to win. Now, if I was going out there and just getting murdered, they would have fucking just cut me and said, hey, you're not doing it.
I told my son in Little League Baseball when the coach told him, don't swing like Babe Ruth. I'm going to bench you. You need to chop down on the ball. I told him, say, yes, sir. And then you swing as we worked on. You hit a home run and everybody's happy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we get judged on our wins and losses.
Yes.
And the one thing which even you'll hear push today, for all the offensive line gurus, is you watch when they set up, the hip is always going to be above the knee, and the idea that you're going to be able to generate force, and the guys can't generate force. If I show you any of my pictures, I was so bendy that like the top of my leg was almost parallel, like I'm sitting in like
you could get under the guy.
Yeah. And so what I could do is I could lift my head, I could look around, I could put my hand down, I could run and pass block out of every stance.
You're never uncomfortable.
Yeah. And just that flexibility allowed me to always stay low, move in space, and not rise up, because a lot of times they were so high when guys would come off, they would rise.
If your stance is a burden, where are you starting from?
Yeah. So just that flexibility was key. And then the fact that I could just move through space, and I had the ability to be able to use a third hand. And I developed a very unique skill set that allowed me to do my job at a high level. But it was different than the technique that we were taught. But then all of a sudden, a year later, your offensive line coach comes back and goes, hey, can we go out on the field and film all this? Because I want to teach this in a clinic. So then they end up making clinic film on it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's what I understand. And then the training.
Well, Fosbury's flopping a high jump.
Yeah.
A better way to skin the cat.
Yeah.
Okay. Right? Results rule, advantage necessity.
But
Here
I mean,
you
if you're Jonathan Ogden, who's 6'8", 360 pounds,
right?
What did J.O. do? He just took a step and lunged at dudes. And he was so big that if they had to run
Tell
around
me about Larry Allen.
Larry Allen had a very unique skill set in that he was not tall. So maybe 6'2",
okay,
right? Maybe 6'3", but had about a 6'6", 6'8" wingspan.
Okay.
And was extremely strong and top heavy.
Okay.
And didn't have a lot of bend in his stance, but he had such incredible feet and was so strong that he could effectively shoot his hands and punch people. And he was so massive that even if he missed, he would just absorb you into his chest.
Okay.
But his ability to step and put his head in hat and fucking strike dudes was unreal.
Who's the best in your opinion?
To ever play the game?
Ever offensive lineman, best ever. And you can segment position if a center is different than a tackle.
Man, that's a tough one. Wow. Offensive line wise, there were guys that I really liked what they did. And I'm totally drawing a blank, but Jim Lachey. I really liked watching Jim Lachey. I really watched Zimmerman. I loved watching Jumbo Elliott. I was a big Jumbo fan. I liked how Jumbo sat in his punch, and Jumbo was always in shape.
I haven't thought of him in a long time.
I met Jumbo as a rookie.
Okay.
And Lonnie Paulet, who was one of our older guys, kind of took me under his wing. We went up and hung out with Jumbo one night, and Jumbo told me, he's like, never get out of shape.
Okay.
He's like, if you get fat, you're going to get hurt. Stay in shape, be able to see your abs. And he's like, if you feel like you're getting fat, we talked about diet, we talked about training, aerobic work.
Right.
And he's like, I was Jumbo when I came into this motherfucker and I was fat, and then I got in shape and he was fucking jacked.
Okay.
And so ever since that, I wanted to be jacked like Jumbo. So Jumbo was great. Man, I would just have to think, as I'm thinking about this, I'm totally drawing blanks, but I'm totally drawing blanks. But
where's Larry Allen on that hierarchy?
Larry Allen is as good as they are. I mean, 2A also played on that offensive line in
Is
Dallas.
that one of the best offensive lines ever?
I think so. That Cowboys offensive line was pretty good. I was fortunate to play on what I believe to be the best offensive line in football. So I played with Willie Rofe, who, Hall of Famer. I played with Will. I played next to Will Shields 14 years, never missed a play. Brian Waters and Casey Wigman. And then I played on that offensive line that blocked for Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson.
Okay.
And, Tony Gonzalez and Jason Dunn.
Yes.
So I was very fortunate. The offensive line I played for with the Eagles with John Runyon and those guys and Trey Thomas. We won more games than anybody, played in 3 NFC championship games. The 4th, when I went to Kansas City, they ended up going to the Super Bowl, but we won a ton of games. And then I got to go play on the best line in pro football.
Yeah.
So you could say Dallas, you could also say that offensive line in terms of running the ball and what we did. We did not have the success that obviously the Dallas Cowboys had, but that was a pretty damn good offensive line.
Wow.
So I was very fortunate in that way. But I liked watching 2A. I mean, I was always a fan of all the Denver Broncos guys because they were always, that was Gary Zimmerman, 275, 280 pounds. I liked the fact that those guys were athletic. They played in space. They did well. They understood
if you're
angles.
playing a mile high in the air too for half the games, it's different when you go up a mile high.
Oh yeah, and people
if
get
you're
killed.
not used to it,
dude. We played the season opener in Mile High,
and
I got absolutely decimated because I'd never played there before.
Yeah, it's just why am I so tired?
Yeah, and I was dying. That next, I went home and I called Tom Incledon.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know Doc Incledon.
Yeah, I met him a long time ago.
Yeah, so I called Doc, and I met Doc 2001, 2002. He's done my blood work every 6 months for the last 20 years.
Oh wow, every 6 months.
Yeah, so I've
stay on top of it.
Yeah. So I mean, he does all my supplements. Tom's kind of been my avenging angel for everything for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
I called Tom and I was like, I got gassed. He's like, I got something for you.
Okay.
So he sends me a hypoxic chamber.
Oh,
which was this big thing that you build around your bed, and then it has a machine that would pump it in. And
now you're in Denver.
I slept at Everest Base Camp for 2 years.
What's that? 14,000.
Yeah. And slept at Everest Base Camp. Funny story. Jared Allen was my roommate at the time. He had gotten into some trouble and ended up not being able to drive, so I had to drive him around. And he will probably still tell jokes. I wonder if at his Hall of Fame he'll fucking make fun of me about it. But I slept at Everest Base Camp and never had a single fucking problem ever playing at Mile High again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was that. But there were guys that were, and Larry's as good as they come. But the interesting thing about a guy like Larry is he was so physically gifted.
Yes. That
I don't know if you can watch Larry Allen.
Forgiving because you're so good.
Yeah. And there's nobody that's like, hey, I'm going to use Larry's technique.
Right.
Like there was shit where all of a sudden.
If I went and played Little League baseball, I could swing with one hand.
Yeah. Well, like all of a sudden a guy would be in a wide 3. And for me, I would have to almost set back in the angle in this. Yeah. Larry could literally take a step and like lunge with 2 hands and knock the guy clean off of his feet. or he could pull
Make a mistake, but be effective.
Yeah, he was. I mean,
unorthodox.
Well, you saw the video of him benching 700.
Oh, I know.
And they've been like, oh, he's still fucking eccentrically loaded and pressed 700 pounds. I don't care.
And that's not some shirt doing it.
No.
And it's not some technique where I'm going 2 inches.
And he's not training for fucking powerlifting.
Right.
And so
that's just man strong.
He is as strong as they can.
Correct.
The guys that I know, Brandon Willis, or sorry, not Brandon Willis. That was a running back. Brandon B-Dub is how I'm going to remember him. We played in college, which I'm totally fucking up his last name. But I remember Brandon, real good defense tackle, played with us at the Eagles, goes up against Larry, and he knew Larry was a big punch guy, throws a little nasty spin on him and ends up getting a nice hit. And after he comes back and he's like, thought that, this, Larry's like, you do that again, I'm going to fucking kill you after the game. I got a gun in my car. And Brandon,
secret to success.
And Brandon, like after Brandon Whiting, and so I remember Brandon was after the game. He's like, "Fucking Larry Allen told me he's going to shoot me with his gun in the car," and I was like, "You think he's serious?" He's like, "I think he's got a gun in his car. I better get on the bus quick." But no, it was it was an amazing job where you got a chance to go out and play against the best of the best, like the most physically developed humans, and you get to know exactly how good or bad were you every Sunday in front of millions of people. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
And
I
felt the sun on my face.
I regret that I didn't get, I didn't have the ability. I'm a B plus. To be in the NFL, you have to be an A, right? And Bo Jackson's A plus. Yeah. You got to be in the range of an A to play in the league. An A minus, you're on the practice squad or whatever. You played Div 1, Div 3.
Yeah.
I never broke 50 seconds into 400. Like, okay. I'm a 4'6" guy. I could dunk a volleyball.
Yeah.
But you know what was an advantage for me is Neil O'Donnell. So he played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and then the Jets. He was at my high school. The guy was an amazing athlete. So he scored like 1,000 points of basketball. He went to Maryland. He could have played basketball there, but he was a quarterback. He was a coddled quarterback because he didn't play linebacker as he should have because he'd have been dominant there. So he was a coddled quarterback. You knew he was going to the show from a very young age. He was like the youngest kid in a family of 9, and his passing ability to be so pinpoint was beautiful. And he was a senior when I was a freshman, so I didn't play with him, but it meant that every summer he'd come back from Maryland and from the NFL to just throw patterns. And so I'm playing D-back in Division III college football, and I'm covering Div 1 and Pro, where if they just run a fly pattern, I lose, but they're not training to play against me, so they got to play by the rules. And I developed my own little scheme on the corner. I'm on the quarterback. I'm peripheral. I'm 6 yards off. I'm shading outside. I'm on the quarterback 3 steps. It's a slant. It's a stop. It's a fade. Only thing I got to worry about is don't get the out and up.
Yeah.
That's why I'm hovering on the outside.
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to cut that off from you. And I'm only 6 yards off. And I'm taking my weight is going back, but I'm not backpedaling.
Sure.
Because I got time. And as soon as he goes past 3, bang, I'm on you. And then I go Division III college football. And the kids who can run a 4.5 are getting pissed off because I'm blanketing them. Because it's where you are on the space. It's the chessboard. And
you were in deep waters.
Yes, exactly. I was in such deep water.
Yeah, if you want to learn to swim, play in deep, swim in deep waters, right?
I was in deep waters with, I had shark repellent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't going to get eaten. But that experience gave me the ability to be a better athlete than I otherwise could have been.
The one thing which football did for me, obviously playing in college and going a chance, and I think I was a better NFL player than I was a college player.
Which makes sense to me.
Well,
if you're a student of the game and you're there and you shouldn't be there if you were doing the same things as everybody else.
Well, for
then
me,
you have an advantage.
I liked the speed and athleticism of the NFL much more than college. College was extremely slow. I thought it was, just a little too methodical.
Provokial.
Yeah. When we got to the NFL, all of a sudden the speed and the professionalism, just I fucking gelled with it. But the confidence from playing and, everybody has self-doubt. And it's amazing to be able to put that element of training and focus in this and then be able to go out and see instant success and validation. And all of a sudden, any confidence or any, because I always said, dude, if If you had fear, all of a sudden those fears become your fucking greatest reality very, very quickly in the NFL. If you're afraid that this guy's going to throw an outside move at you, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to fucking throw it. Yeah, he's going to throw that outside move until you stop it.
Yes.
So the ability to be able to inflict and be able to, impose your will on this individual and get him to quit and give up and be able to do all those things. I mean, the confidence to be able to go out and do just about anything comes.
If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And 10 years, acting in New York City with the number of rejections that I had.
You got good at no.
I got so good at no that it started turning into yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so now I have, if it's a subject that I'm confident on, biomechanics, movement, athletics, I don't care the size of the crowd. I would have not one iota of nervousness. It would just be like, okay, great, get to talk about this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there would literally be zero nervousness. Whereas pre that acting experience, just standing up and saying my name and where I'm from. That you're sitting around a circle, everybody's gonna go through, tell us your name, tell us why you're here, and a little bit about yourself. I did not hear anything that was said until I had gone, and then I could listen. Because I'm sitting there thinking, what am I going to say? Like, what am I going to say? So I'm not listening at all. I'm like in myself, all nervous, overcoming that social anxiety. Public speaking, they say, is really difficult.
But what you're talking about is effectively testing yourself.
You have to go through the fire to get through the fire.
And, if you hadn't have developed the BOSU ball, BOSU ball.
Boy's name, girl's
I don't know
name.
why I fuck it up. But think about all the hate and all the, everything that you've taken. If you didn't have that, would it have forced you to be able to go and develop all of the other pieces?
I think that the New Jersey chip on my shoulder and just the contempt and the inability to fake my feelings for real gave me a motivation that my anger, here's how I internalize it. If it's black coal, right, just pure black, it's anger, it's not good for you, I just couldn't unleash it. I had to compress it, turn it into a diamond. So now I used my absolute contempt and hatred for the bullying that is unjust that you're putting on me. If I would get kicked out of most college strength rooms as it stands right now because they don't know the value of what I've done. Their impression is that I'm the charlatan who created a little gimmick, right? So, and I would get kicked out and laughed out. Now, most of those guys try to throw me out.
Yeah.
Bang, I'm going to knock you out. But now I have this okay, good. Now I have diamond. I still need to see it through. Okay, you're getting better because of stuff that I created and that you're going to do, and you're going to stop doing the nonsense that you've been conditioned to believe is true, and then we could be friends. That's the only way that I could get rid of the anger.
Do you think that the creation of that first product and the way it's viewed within the world has tinted all of the other things that you've come up with?
100%.
Because
but here's what it did.
It
was a blessing because it provided the opportunity and the resources to do it, and it was a curse because it turned hundreds of thousands of guys against me. I'm just like you. I'll dive in front of the bullet. Let's go.
Yeah.
You want to headbutt me? You do it again.
I mean, when I started working with, like we talked yesterday, when I started working with the jiu-jitsu guys, one thing that was really interesting was the lack of rigidity in the ankles. When they would do plyos, there was all this force bleed.
Right.
So I started looking for Polish boxes, and nobody was selling them. I was going to make them. I was looking for pitches, like, hey, what's the angle? What's the fall? What are the size? And I reached out to a bunch of people. Not a single person responded to me with anything. And then somehow the algorithm popped up and I saw, that's how I found you. And I saw the Weck decks and I was like, oh shit, these are awesome. Like this can solve us a problem. So I went online. I saw how it was in kind of experimental deal. I had to join something.
Innovation group to get the prototype because it's not available to the public.
And, we have Power Athlete Radio.
That vest that you tried yesterday, that's going to be in there.
But Power Athlete Radio had been really easy to reach out in this. And I was like, I'm happy to pay for your technology.
Right.
So I bought it, got them, and we started using them. And it solved a problem for me that I couldn't. So I've taught an entire world every time we go squat to put their big toe on the ground and drive their knees out so that the knee tracks over the instep, and we get that form of rotation from the hip. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden I put the guys on the boxes or on the decks, and their knees were completely aligned, the ankle, and all of a sudden we started using them in the pulls, we were using them in the plyos, we were using them, with the Bulgarian split squats, and especially with the knee behind the glute. I mean, we were using them in all these different ways. And I just tagged you in some stuff because you know what? You created a great product. And the hilarious part was I had no.
Oh, you didn't know about the
that,
BOSU connection.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were the inventor.
Right.
So I saw those, and then I kind of clicked around and I saw some of the other stuff that you were working on. And all I knew was, and then I think I posted it, and Shanji texts me, hey, the guy that invented those slant boards you're using is a 6-blades guy. And I'm like, of course. But
yeah.
And then
that is, I mean, first of all, when I found out, like when you asked me to come on the podcast, like the fact that you asked me, I was like, you don't need to ask. I'm invited, I'm coming, right? And then Chris, oh my God, I love them, Eat the Week. So, and I knew the legitimacy of your training because of the history of the legitimacy of your accomplishments athletically. And so this was just like, it was destined to happen.
It was awesome.
And the deck, the soul step that I gave you, those things, the patent on it is as simple as this. It is a support postural platform that puts the inside ball of the foot higher than the inside heel of the foot, higher than the outside ball of the foot, higher than the outside heel of the foot. So it puts you on this pitch that now, if you look at the foot and you think in terms of, okay, the 4th and 5th toes and metatarsals tie into the calcaneus. That's the ground floor, right? We call that go. That's where you're going to initiate if you're sprinting. And then the big toe, second toe, third toe ride on top and tie into the talus, that floating bone that is sort of the ankle bone, right? So now what this thing does is this thing is going to pitch up and cock the spring of the big toe. If you poured water on it, it's going to flow to the outside heel. Mm-hmm. But if you poured water on it from the back, it's going to go from the inside ball to the outside ball of the foot. So you're getting this cross-lateralized X force that now you can pressurize the big toe with full pressure and not collapse because you're cocking a spring. But you're also sending the inside ankle to the outside ball of the foot. And that's the uphill. Downhill, it's the same ratio, but now the heels are higher. Mm-hmm. So that's more conducive to internal torsion and fuller range of motion. Yeah. Uphill is that springiness. And when you see Victor Hugo doing it with the perfect joint alignment, hip-knee relationship and height of where the ankle is, because you know what you're doing, he's able to now get what we call full foot support. Yeah. And here's what's really interesting. The BOSU Elite, you're going to see a design out of like where a power line is, okay? When you stand on that BOSU Elite with your toes just toeing over, hang 10 over that line, you are in the same ratio of what the deck is. Oh. That I had just discovered that from feel, and that's why I drew the line where I did. And it puts the big toe highest, the outside heel the lowest, the inside heel is higher than the outside ball. And all these years later, I somehow my body knew it, but the way that I invented it was, check this out. It was this gobbledygook Eastern stuff and then mathematical stuff, because I was like, okay, divisions of a circle, there's 360, that equals 9. Divide it once, that's 180, that equals 9 if I reduce it down. Okay, 90, that's 9. 45, that's 9. 22.5, that's 9. 11.25, that's 9. I'm going to take the 5th division, and I'm going to combine it with the 4th division, and I'm going to tilt it 11.25, I'm going to turn it 22.5, and that's what it is. And so I set that up, and it was like 11 o'clock in the lab, a bunch of guys there, we're just working on it. We stood on it. We're like, holy shit, this is it. So I got there back to what I had felt years ago with the BOSU Elite, not even consciously making the connection until after it was made, through this esoteric, weird, mathematical, it's not computational math. It's this reductionist math to single integer. Just add up all the digits and what's it reduced down to? So I think it speaks to just what's true is true. I don't care if you say tomato, pomodoro, a rose is a rose by any other name. And so it is a special pitch that supports you with a full foot support that is conducive to the dynamic flow of force in gait. Chris had an old football injury from high school where his hip was always a little tricky. He had his baby boy who he would sort of figure eight and rock to sleep when he was a little boy. He did it on Soul Steps, and he did it for weeks and a month or whatever, and his hip got better.
Yeah.
My brother is not an exercise guy. Like, what do you do for exercise? Oh, I used to go to this boot camp. I got to go back. Oh, I'm going to run a marathon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so he runs a marathon. He's got I pulled my calf, but I got to run the marathon. Like, that's fitness for him. It's not a regular thing. And when he stood on the Soul Steps, he goes, David, I like these. They're simple. I stand on it. I feel better.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're able to recognize that without any connection directly, but a connection sort of that's underneath it is a very cool story.
Yeah, no, I sent you that video. I just had him set up, and my son went and got a 20-pound chain.
Yes,
and he was
I saw that. Yeah,
you see him squatting on it? And I gave him no direction.
Yeah.
So I just saw him doing it, so I shot the video.
Oh,
and
I love that.
He picked the chain up because the chains were there, and he's seen us use the
twins.
twins.
Victor do it.
Yeah, and he's seen us because we use the chains for dips. We use them for this because I like
a strong neck is a strong core.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it kind of forces the head and forces them into this
this
position.
nape of the neck. Like getting that.
So he sees it, puts it over, and he goes and gets on it, and he kind of took like 2 or 3 kind of like side to side, and he found exactly where he wanted to.
Yeah.
And then he squatted, and I was like, I shot the video and I sent it to you because that was totally organic.
Yeah, that's
he just
so
saw him,
awesome.
he got on it, and he found. I was
talk about nurture, Floyd Mayweather, right?
Yeah,
he's getting it from all the experience.
Well, the cool thing is the kids get to see like Olympic athletes and professional athletes and some of the best in the world who are daddy's friends.
Yes.
Extraordinary
experience.
Oh, dude, like the other day, so the guys will know this story, but my son was in the gym. Victor came in and he trains with Victor at his school. So he sees Victor and he goes over and he got him. So Matt, who you met earlier, he's a wrestler. So he showed Cashy how to do single leg, claps his knees, and then pull him around. So Victor comes in, he gets him in a single leg, collapses the knees, and kind of pulls him aside. Victor, being nice, just goes down, and Cashy goes right into side control.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And Victor that day later at jiu-jitsu called him up and gave him a stripe. And he's like, oh
my gosh.
He's like, and today Cash gets a stripe because he did
Talk
so
about
good.
Feeding the flame, boy.
Dude, we were like sitting in there. He is like chest, and he was like, Dad, do you think because I took Mr. Victor down at the gym, he gave me the stripe? And I said, 100%. You're using jiu-jitsu everywhere.
Yes.
And I was like, that was big. And dude,
wonderful.
I've never seen him light up like this.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
You know what? I just came to my mind of like this, like strong neck, like this, that ability to sort of tilt it, level the eyes and the ears, and sort of get that tall, long, raise up. So I'm lighter and I'm taller and I'm bigger. It made me think of Alex Kanellis. All right. Alex Kanellis created something called Landmine University.
Yeah.
Okay. And Alex, he was a state champion high school wrestler in Iowa, unbeaten. He beefed up to 295 pounds with that wrestling ability to be an offensive lineman at Iowa. Mm-hmm. Had a weightlifting accident where the bar slipped, hit him in the head, couldn't tie his shoes for a week, and fortunately recovered and came back, but the NFL dream was done. Mm. He humbled himself and he went to his high school gym. He became the strength coach. And he said, I'm going to do this for 10 years and I'm going to be the best communicator to, kids and athletes possible. They win like 8 state titles because he's not just making you strong, he's making you effective on the football field. And then the ultimate honor is he moves to San Diego to train with me at the lab.
Nice.
2 years. I taught him key things that, and the Landmine University was incubated and built in the Weck Method lab.
Do you know who invented the landmine?
Who did?
Bert Soren.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. So Bert Soren and Sorenex invented the landmine.
Wow.
And never patented it, started making it. And they're the inventors.
Well, Alex Kanellis has given you the shortcut to coil long switch, right? And so it's a very short path to very functional strength very quickly, very safely. So that's essentially, it's a distilled coiling core training rotational.
Yeah, no,
training.
I've seen it. The breath belt.
Jesse Oliger. Right.
Yeah, so Jesse and I are friends.
NFL punter.
Yeah, so he sends me the breath belt. This is a couple years ago.
Yeah,
and as soon as I put it on, I knew exactly what it was because I've taught an entire world to basically use this task specific tension in the trunk through the dead bug. And all of a sudden, I put this thing on, and I'm like, shit. He effectively putting this thing on. I know exactly what it does. And now whenever I tell people like, hey, if we're doing this is the position I want, I put the breath belt on. This is what I want you to try to maintain without it on.
You want to hear a funny story? Jesse, before he was really launched the breath belt, I do inventor consultancies. This is going back 2014, 15. I get a call, order online. Some guy named Jesse's got an invention. He's going to come. Okay, sign the paperwork. Okay, here's your consultation. And it's Jesse Oliger with the breath belt. And I gave him the blueprint of, okay, well, this is a product. I think you got something here. And I'll tell people, like, look, I really don't spend any more money because it's about making money at the end of the day.
Sure.
Right? So I told Jesse, like, I think you got a shot. And here's, you're doing these things good. And I think I would add this, that. So I had a hand in helping the breath belt get out there. Small world.
I met him at the Sornex deal, and he reached out and he sent us these deals, and I started using them with with my wife and all of, especially these women after they had babies.
Right.
And they were struggling, really trying to regain function in their trunks.
Right, and a lot of it's just that neural cueing.
Yeah,
so if you have a bridge, an advantage to get that feeling, then okay, it's like it's training wheels.
Yeah. No, and it's a great deal. And I know, if those guys are ever struggling or anything, I might throw it on. We'll use it in some warm up, take it off, use it. Don't use it like we use it, don't use it. We go back and forth.
You don't want to be reliant.
But I think it's such a great cue to remind people.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I mean, all of these things, whether it be your inventions, what Jesse did, the landmine, they're all tools.
It's just tools.
And it comes down to your understanding of how they incorporate within what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And it's just more tools in the toolbox. So the fact that people shit on something, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, again, I said in the beginning, it is really like, and I suppose, if I were more mature, I would let it go and just chalk it up for what it is. But because there are financial consequences and physical education consequences to this nonsense of shitting on the BOSU ball, I mean, let's just say that the influence of the professionals and the highest educated guys using something has a trickle effect on the marketplace. So now if you take 90% of strength rooms in college, for example, and the NSCA, whatever their reach is, and now the narrative is that BOSU balls make you weaker. How many BOSU balls were not sold as a consequence of that boulder that was dropped into the pond and the ripples that are like eroding the shore?
Well, is the BOSU ball, is the function to how are they defining strength? So, okay, so now
but the narrative, again, it has to do with how much I can squat or
that's
lift
like saying I don't do hammer curls because they don't increase my back squat.
Yes,
right. It's fucking crazy, people.
It is fucking crazy, but the consequence is very real to this action, right? And so let's just say it added up to, 1 million BOSU balls are not sold because that, from 2007 to now, 1 million's not a lot, okay? Relatively speaking, 1 million's not that much over that course. But let's just say the hit is 1 million BOSU balls weren't sold as a result of the narrative. And it was your way of getting clicks and, oh yeah, attaboy, okay, you're part of the club. Let's do our power press and brace the core. So 1 million BOSU balls. Let's just ascribe $100 per BOSU ball. And it's more than that. What gross revenue, what is 1 million times 100?
100 million.
Okay. Now, I'm not even a money guy, but you know how much good I could do you giving me that money?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there is you're harming me. You're harming me. You're pissing out your window and I'm getting wet. And you don't know that I can help you get stronger. And you're unwilling to listen. So it's just like what you do on a playground is you call the bully out into the center of the playground and say, I am going to punch him in the nose and he's going to bend his knee, ready, go, bang, bend your fucking knee. And that's just metaphor for like the motivation that I have had through these years to kick the living shit out of these guys metaphorically with better information was fuel to the fire that ultimately I will say thank you to them. But it has to happen before I do that. You know, I'm not going to, I will exhaust all logic and reason before I leap to faith. I'm not leaping to faith prior to getting to the end of the diving board of logic and reason. It has to happen for me, and then all will be well. We'll make up. We'll laugh about it. It's like, you know, the preamble to the fight, the preamble to the football game. And then when the game's over, you played, and okay, yeah, shake your hand. Let's go have a beer.
Yeah.
Right? You'd never think before the game that these two guys could ever get along. The game's over. Okay, we have a winner. We got a loser. Get over it. You play again some other time, but now is the time to, you know, all right, good game. And I think that that's ultimately what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because people are going to become mature, including myself.
I've just, it doesn't make any sense. But so what's next? I mean, I saw a vest. I mean, the rattlers, like the little weights in the hands.
Propulsors.
I thought those things were badass.
Yeah. So
I mean, and then there's a vest. I mean, like there's more and more stuff coming.
So the core fist, I discovered this position that I showed you yesterday, that skeletal circuit, May 1st, 2010, Mayweather-Mosley. Remember the second round when Mosley dinged Mayweather and we all thought that might be it? Mm-hmm. I jumped up and my hands went to here. Later that night, they went to here.
Yeah.
And I felt what you felt yesterday. Oh my God, tension creates less restriction than more. And the stability of this thing is like a club. And then I started punching down with it to create a jolt because the tension is not working against me. It's working for me because of the triangulation and the longitudinal transmission of force through the bones. The world, like the Olympic record jerk, the guy finishes on one leg.
Yeah.
You can put so much weight through the bone longitudinally. Put his femur this way and put the weight on it, break like a twig. But you send it there, that spiral crystalline matrix of that bone, it transmits so much force. So in the distal extremity, I can funnel all the flexion back in to marry up with the extensors. This is the fight, this is the fear. And if I do this, I better hold something because this fails. So I can't unite both sides of strength. So anyway, I found that May 1st, 2010. I went like that and I felt a jolt and instantly Deion Sanders came to mind. Deion Sanders, he articulates with his hands like this all the time. He has extended fingers and a flexed hand, and that is his muscle memory. That is his existence. He's holding the microphone. He's putting on the Hall of Fame jacket. I have the photos. It is this. He ran like this.
Yeah,
and the extended fingers with the flexed hand creates a tensional balance of sort of this is the extension, this is the flexion. So Tony Blauer will tell you that naturally your reflexes, if you are frightened or startled, your startle response will be bang. Outside 90 with the hands, 90. Splayed out into extension. Yep. And what I can tell you is that if you do enough of this here, well, guess what your response is? And it's reflexive. Boom. This is a better position. This is a better position than that. And you can feel the tensional balance. When you create that crown, like you're not going to hurt that.
Do you know what my best Deion Sanders story is?
Oh, please tell me.
We were playing the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas, and Deion never wanted to hit anybody at the end of his career.
Right.
He just wasn't out there to hit anybody. And so we would obviously, like, you know, through a pass, we'd all kind of run down there looking to clean up people on the pile. And I saw Deion jogging up, dove over the pile and fucking took a shot on him and actually hit him. And fucking, he didn't go down, but he spun out of it and fucking this. He runs over to me. He's like, I ain't trying to fucking hit anybody out here. What the fuck are you? Like, went absolutely batshit crazy on me. And I was so excited that I almost knocked Deion the fuck out.
Oh my gosh.
If I had like just
the
been
ultimate honor.
If I had just been another inch to the left and knew he was going to spin and kind of like peel out the way he did, I would have fucking clobbered him and knocked him unconscious or knocked him down.
Now,
landed on top of him, and then I could have fucking teabagged him and danced over him, done whatever I had.
You did that heel drop.
Oh, dude, I would have loved it. And I did it purely because I knew my brother would fucking die.
Yeah.
Dude, the fact that you almost knocked out Dion would have been fucking like the hallmark of my career.
Arguably the greatest impact player ever on the defensive side of the ball.
Prime time.
Right? Prime time. Now, tell me what the relationship is today.
I have no relationship with Dion. I didn't really know him.
Because I was going to say, if you have a cell phone, give it to me because I want to send him a text.
I don't have any relationship with him. He talked about himself too much in the third person. But I always wonder if I do run into him one day, if he would remember it, he'd be like, that motherfucker dove over the pile. And that was kind of our deal. We used to try to pick dudes off around the pile. Dion made the mistake of jogging up, and I fucking veered, dove over, and fucking got him. Oh, dude. If I could have knocked him down and landed on top of him, that would have been the hallmark.
Dion,
that would have been the highlight of my fucking career.
Dion, if you hear this, don't hold it against me.
Well, he's out there. He should have listened to little Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People a little bit better.
Well, he's giving back now.
Well, he's out of Colorado. I mean, shit, most of those kids transferred out day one.
What?
Oh, yeah. No, he went up there and kind of went in there and said, hey, nobody's got a fucking job in this, and kind of like kicked everybody in the nuts.
Because what he did at Jackson State was
incredible.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, he went in there and tried to lay the law down, and I think a lot of those players transferred out. So I'm interested to see
all right,
how.
So we're going to see how this. Yeah. Okay, we're going to. It's still a drama.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well,
but he likes drama. That's who he is.
Yes, he is, and he is a winner.
Yeah.
Can't argue that he's not a winner.
Yeah.
You want to win the Super Bowl? Well, trade for Dion. Well, Dallas, you want to win? No, let's take him.
No, I mean, they paid him and shit, man.
See, I have a special affinity for him because of the way that he holds and uses his hands, and the fact that he was the guy who came to mind when I discovered the core fist May 1st, 2010.
I saw the video, but he had the ball in his hand when he was kind of doing this.
But even the way that he's holding the ball, he's not grabbing it with his fingers.
Yeah, he's kind of.
This cuts off the tensional balance.
Sure.
This is for articulation of the distal. This is to funnel it into proximal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, he was real big on the side.
He did the double down, and if he's empty-handed, he's here. This elbow comes high. Carl Lewis and Tom Tellez, it was elbow high to the sky and then hand high to the eye. If you're training double up, it creates double down. And so if you watch them in slow motion, especially from the front, you can see the head over the foot and the down intent. And even if I'm swinging the arm, the mass of the arm is moving down and then up and down and then up. And so and think about
cheek to cheek.
Well, and even if that's what you're doing, it is still a down up movement. Yeah. Right? So and think about it just from a logical standpoint, right? It has to load to explode. Yeah. All right, so which way happens first? Is it down or up? Okay, it's down. And if I want to get a bigger up, I have to go down, up, down, up. And so Randy Moss, this is Dion here with these dart hands, which gives you a tensional balance, is very effective. Randy Moss does this.
Yeah.
So he has this here like that. Fred Curley has this. Well, I mean, none of these guys, the football guys will.
I played with Randy at the Patriots.
Randy Moss, he's like 84 don't stretch on game day. You know anything about Minnesota Vikings football? You know 84 don't stretch. Can you imagine how intimidating that is if he's on the 50-yard line?
Do you know how tall he is?
What, 6'5"?
Yeah, he's tall. He's like for a receiver, he's tall as fuck.
Listen. Jerry Rice has more yards, but it's a Hail Mary. There's 1 second on the clock. Who do you want to run down the field and just take your best shot?
Randy Moss.
Okay, thank you. You see what I'm saying? Roy Jones said in fighting, he's like, you show everybody's highlight reel, and then you ask the kids who they want to see again first. Roy Jones.
Yeah.
So there's certain claims to fame. Randy Moss, the freak, he got mossed. He's running down the field and he looks up at the big board to see when the pass is coming.
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? He's on another level.
Yep.
And if it's a jump ball, it is his.
Yeah.
I don't care who else is there.
6'5".
And he jumps and he runs like he's 5'11".
Yeah. No, he floated.
He was faster than people. He was more athletic than people.
And what's amazing is he was faster, but he didn't look like it looked effortless. Yeah. So like it didn't look like he was running fast, and then he was blowing past people.
He has this. I have this one footage of him where he's coming. They're like on the 20-yard line, maybe 22-yard line, and he's coming in, and he does this stutter step where he takes a step. He syncopates in the air. He lands on it, and he just jets, and the D-back is just like, wide open. And then the quarterback had the wisdom to not put it continuous, so the safety, and Randy stops, catches the ball in between the corner, who's way over there, and the safety, who otherwise would have picked it off or hit him. Because you play with a guy like that, and you guys are synced up.
Well, you've seen it done enough.
Exactly. But Randy's creating opportunities that nobody else could have.
He's a good player. He's one of the best. No, I mean, and that's why I go back to, whenever we taught seminars, whenever I talk to people, the greatest display of athleticism you'll ever see is in an NFL Sunday. And it's not in a traditional way. It's when all of a sudden things break, or you watch people do something that makes everybody hold their breath.
Barry Sanders.
Barry Sanders. Yep. I mean, even like I go back to that.
Lynn Swann. Go back to the 80s.
Think about Odell Beckham Jr. when he was in New York.
Yeah.
And he literally, as he's running, reached back, caught that ball, and fucking breaks the internet with that catch.
Yes, exactly.
And what they don't show was the fact that he has practiced that exact catch thousands of times.
Those sticky gloves do help. But still,
I mean, unreal.
David Tyree catching it here. Oh my gosh.
Or you watch like Strahan or some of these guys, or Lawrence Taylor rush the passer, where all of a sudden they slap a dude, and they're all of a sudden they slap a guy, and they use the momentum to go 5 yards around the corner to catch some guy.
Yes.
I mean, it's there was shit that would happen that you would be like, first of all, how the fuck did that guy do that? And we would watch things that and just be like, shit. Like, one, I hope I'm not on this guy's highlight reel.
Right.
So I'm going to do everything right.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Right.
Because you would watch people do crazy shit.
You're not the
and
guy.
You're like, I'm going to do everything right so that I don't end up in the highlight reel. Because there's shit that you would see.
Bill Buckner on the like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Ooh. I remember seeing footage of Dick Butkus talking about a movie that he liked because a head got chopped off and it rolled down the hallway. And he's like, I like that movie. Right. I watch Lawrence Taylor highlight reels to this day.
Yeah.
I have them bookmarked. I'll screen record them. And it's just like, it makes me.
Derek Thomas.
Yes. But for me, LT, I was a Giants fan.
I mean, rest in peace. I mean, Derek Thomas.
Big cat.
Dude, I mean, guys that moved like they shouldn't have moved.
Yeah, and so big.
Yeah,
but
big
natural
and strong.
Big.
Yeah.
Natural big.
Yeah,
Lawrence Taylor didn't lift the weights.
No, he was too busy partying.
And you know what's interesting about that? If he had played for Joe Gibbs, it would have been a train wreck disaster.
So
because he would have boxed him in.
LT
Bill Parcells, don't tell.
LT bought a strip club. And had it moved next to the Meadowlands, so he would have a place to go party in between practices.
There you go.
Right. So they invoked the LT rule, which is where NFL teams stay the hotel the night before the game, because there was a deal where all of a sudden, and I heard this directly from Sean Landetta, who was the punter for the Giants.
Yeah,
they got to pregame. LT's not there. They come in. They're looking for him. They send some managers out. They basically drag him in unconscious. He had been in the back of the strip club face down. They bring him in and they start doing contrast, like hot and cold, hot and cold. On about the 14th one, his head snaps up, walks in, pulls on his pants, no jock, puts on his jersey, no shirt, pulls his socks on, no tape, shoes, the whole deal, and went out and set the single season sack record that day. So I did. Unbelievable. I did contrast every single day of my life since then.
One of my buddies used to go to the go-go bars in New Jersey late at night, and he was there on a Saturday night, and it was like Maurice Carthon and someone else at 2 a.m. They got a game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, that's old school NFL. That probably doesn't happen anymore.
Well, no, because they're in the hotel the night before.
Yeah, but lights out.
But when I came in, there was this old kind of superstition that you got to drink so much on Saturday night that you're hungover on Sunday, because if you play with a hangover, you'll be real vicious. And but then we were in the hotel, so then we had to go drink on Friday night, which was Runyon's rule.
Well, the night before, talk about disaster.
Yeah, so then we would leave the bar, and I would just drive to the Eagles facility and just park, and then just sleep in my car.
There you go.
Knock on the door. And that was when I was a young guy, and I was fucking crazy. But dude, we're
I know,
almost,
we can go on.
well, I think we're almost 3 hours. Shit, I feel like we can go for well, we will I'm going to end it here.
Yeah.
If people want to get a hold of you or they're interested in the products,
weckmethod.com. It's WECK method.com. I am the David Weck on Instagram and Twitter. And I recommend that you look up Eroding Weakness on Instagram. That's Chris Chamberlain, my right-hand man.
it's a beast.
So we're coming to a training facility near you in one form or another in terms of providing better foundation, balanced locomotion, the paradigm shift to make every step stronger for everyone. That's my mantra. It's what I say every day. I live for it. I breathe for it. I was born for it. And the opportunity to hang out and spend the whole morning with you has been
awesome.
An incredible honor and privilege.
Thank you.
And you and Matt are coming out to San Diego, and we're going to get to work.
I can't wait. It's exciting. Well, dude, thank you for letting me carve out 3 hours for this podcast, and look forward to I'm sure we'll do this again. But thanks for tuning in another episode of Power Athlete Radio. See ya.
This episode of Power Athlete Radio is powered by Train Heroic, the most immersive strength training app experience on the market.
We've built our online training business by partnering with Train Heroic and helping us deliver all of our world-class training programs like Jack Street, Field Strong, and Grindstone. To learn which Power Athlete training program best suits your goals, head to powerathletehq.com/training.
And if you're a coach looking to build a business with the best tech and training, go to trainheroic.co/PowerAthleteHQ.